Really sports headlines. Kickoff 2025 with a new Chevy from Paddock.
Call or text WGR at 803-0550 or post on X at WGR550 and get connected to Jeremy and Joe now. Brought to you by Northtown Kia. Check out the 2025 Kia K4 sedan. Named finalist for the 2025 North American Car of the Year.
Sabers working in behind the net. Got a man in front, scores. Yuri Kulik goes to the front of the net. And he tips it in, and the Sabres have tied the game at 2 with 11:18 to go in the third period.
One of the Firth moments of the game. For the moments in your life, go forth to Firth. Moments of the game brought to you by Firth Jewelers. Yuri Kulik, big day for the Sabres, and a come-from-behind win against Vancouver, in which they wore beautiful jerseys, by the way. Anyway, that's your moment of the game brought to you by Firth Jeweler.
I think it really is remarkable that Josh has gone from a player that was known for chaos and he's gone into control, a player that was known for reckless and he's gone into just aggression, a player that at times early on was careful and now he's just really smart with the football. And no, he wasn't remarkable when it came to the statistical performance, but in reality, the difference of the game is one team took care of the football in an incredibly high level, and one team didn't. And to beat an all-time great offense with the number one ranked defense, and that's who Baltimore was, that's what was going to be necessary. They called it and they executed it that way.
Dan Orlovsky, good morning, Jeremy and Joe. Development, we are now streaming the show live on Twitch and YouTube. There are cameras in here, and for better or for worse, folks, they're showing our faces. Listen, I've been doing this for 20 years, and I don't know that I signed up for that. No, it's fine.
R.I.P. The face for radio joke.
Well, I mean, R.I.P. We're going to hear about 50 of those in the next hour. And it's not that I didn't sign up for it. I don't know that the listeners signed up to see our faces, but whatever. We're each wearing hats today that on the stream, this is one. It's kind of funny. If you read our hats left to right on the stream, it says Buffalo Bills. I'm wearing a Sabres hat that says Buffalo, and you're wearing a Bills hat that says Bills.
That's right.
And it says Buffalo Bills on our hats. So there you go. So you can follow us on YouTube and on Twitch, and we'll get you all that. WGR SportsRadio550 live stream on YouTube, and on Twitch we are Buffalo WGR550. So I'll send this link, and it'll be, I mean, hey, the modeling contracts are coming in, the clothing contracts are coming in. There you go. We're talking. We actually kind of started today talking about the Bills and the Chiefs and the bandwagon and the idea of everybody jumping on the Bills bandwagon, but also the Patriots' hateability and the Chiefs' hateability with that as well. So if you want to chime in on that, you can. To Dan Orlovsky's point, I'm glad you played that, Josh, because yesterday we played a clip from, I think it was Nate Burleson, and he said Josh Allen showed his maturity by not lateraling a ball to James Cook. And I said to you, come on. Let's not act like he laterals every play, and Allen in that moment is all of a sudden smarter and more mature. And it's actually the film stuff that made me feel more about Allen's maturity. Listening to Joe Marino, who we'll talk to at 7:30 today, talk about Allen taking what's there, how the Ravens played cover 3 a lot, and he didn't try to get it all back in one shot. He did the whole thing. He did it last year, too. We've seen the mature Allen who is able to take layups when he wants to and doesn't go Superman mode unless he needs to. So that kind of made me feel more about the maturity point and Allen and the kind of quarterback that he is now. He'll play any kind of game. And I feel like, when it comes to Allen, Joe, people have total faith. There's not many that wonder about his role in a game like this.
He mentions there like how Allen was chaotic and turnover prone coming into the league. Has that been overstated? Was it one game? Because I'm looking, even in college, that was his reputation, right? Do you know of the 5 first-round quarterbacks where he ranked in interception percentage that year? Of
those 4?
The five, including Lamar Jackson. Where do you rank? His senior season in college, where was his interception percentage?
Oh, in college?
Yeah, that last year going into the draft, where did he rank in percentage of his passes that ended up in interceptions?
Oh, I don't know.
Second best.
Second best in college?
Yeah, only Mayfield was better. He had a lower interception percentage than Lamar Jackson, than Sam Darnold, and than Josh Rosen did. And then he got up to the NFL, and he threw 12 picks in his rookie year. Rookies will do that. And then If you remember about that 2019 season, he was kind of a game manager. He really didn't turn the ball over in an extraordinary fashion, and then you got to the playoffs. And I really do wonder, because that was a lot of people's introduction to Allen. The Bills were not a huge draw yet, so it was a narrative about Allen, and then maybe a couple of plays that looked ridiculous, but it still didn't really totally show up in the numbers. He was not Jameis Winston throwing 30 picks, but then he went to Houston and he lateraled the football and he threw a double covered Hail Mary to a fullback, and it's like, wow, this dude is nuts. He must be totally reckless. And I'm not saying he's not at all, but I feel like it's been overstated what he was early in his career on this. He never took sacks, really. Right. He was always good with pressure. That's one thing he really didn't have to get a lot better with. He took more, again, there are incremental improvements, but I don't know. I'm not telling you it's not impressive what he's done. I just think the turnover problem was never as bad or as important as it was sounding.
I agree with that. There's also been some to point out that his interceptions are not like others because they're down the field.
Yeah.
And, if you live where I do, which is that punts are turnovers, man, you don't care about turnovers nearly as much. So it's always been something I felt was overstated. I don't know how often you've ever heard me get on Allen for interceptions or turning the ball over. If he fumbles, that's different. Like, to me, that's avoidable. But, yeah.
He did have fumbles. He had some fumbles early in his career. Quarterbacks will often have a ton of fumbles. Like the top 13 fumblers in the league this year, I think, were all quarterbacks. Right. They touch the ball.
They touch the ball. They
get sacked. Yeah.
803-0550 to join us, and 1-888-552-550. You can stream the show on Twitch and YouTube now as well, or just listen here, listen on the Odyssey app, all that good stuff. Mike in Rochester's up. Hey, Mike.
Hey guys, how are we doing?
Fantastic.
Great.
Burleson, he's trying pretty hard to get back into the Bills Mafia after he picked the other team to win the other week. So seemed like he was trying pretty hard in this last time we heard him. My wife works for an HR company out of Boston. She works here remotely in Rochester, but she works out of Boston, and they're all Patriot fans. They know that she's a big Bills fan, and they're totally pulling for the Bills on this one. So, even the Patriots are rooting for us on this one.
Well,
we got that going for us. So.
Do we want that?
Yeah, do we want it?
Here are Patriots fans say, I'm pulling for you guys. Like, hey, get out of here. You're not welcome here.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, really. Hey, another thing, too. Does the roster size change at all for the playoffs, or does it stay the same?
It stays the same. The only difference is you get unlimited practice squad elevations.
Yeah.
But everything else is the same. Yeah.
Thanks, Mike. One thing, I forgot this about the first Chiefs, speaking of roster size and all that stuff, I had totally forgotten that in the first Bills-Chiefs matchup that Spencer Brown didn't play.
When?
In the first Bills-Chiefs game this year. Spencer Brown didn't play.
He missed the game?
He did. So did Keon Coleman, and so did Dalton Kincaid.
Okay.
I had totally forgotten about that.
Oh, yeah. Brown did not play that game.
It is a great example of when you win, you kind of forget things. If they had lost, we might say, well, Spencer Brown didn't
have
play.
Spencer Brown. They didn't have Coleman. They didn't have Kincaid.
Yeah. They're missing 3
They didn't have Milano.
They didn't have Milano? Right. Yeah. They might not have Milano this week. I don't know. Maybe they will. We're going to find out the mystery with Matt Milano. But anyway, 803-0550, our phone number, and 1-888-550-2550.
It's amazing they were able to throw the ball 40 times successfully without Coleman or Kincaid on the field.
And Spencer Brown.
That's kind of how the season's developed.
Yeah.
By the way.
Gina in Delaware. Hey, Gina, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I'm here to give you your Mid-Atlantic report. So your Mid-Atlantic report consists of, geographically speaking, Delaware being within 3 hours of Washington, D.C., Baltimore, and Philadelphia. Therefore,
oh, wow, yeah.
America. Okay, so here we go.
You're like in the cradle of conference championship week, kind of.
Cradle me, baby, because that's where I am. And I'm going to tell you something. When I go to work now, I'm Bill. I'm Gina. I'm not Gina anymore. I'm Bill. Because everybody says to me, yo, Bill, go Bills. They all say, the Commanders, the Eagles, the Ravens fans, at my place of work, listen, we want you all to win. In America, a Commander fan said to me, America wants to see the Commanders and the Bills. The Chiefs. This game to me, guys. This game to me is my Super Bowl. Now, do I want to win it? I think of that story. I remember the Titans as my jam. And the little girl at the end of the show goes, Coach, I want to win it so bad. That's how I feel right now, guys, like a little girl just pleading, saying, Coach, I want to win this so bad. We not only need to win it for the Mafia, we need to do it for America. I see Josh Allen, Captain America, and that sign as you're coming down the 90 where I get so excited because I'm waiting for my Milano's pizza waiting for me, or my bocce pizza, whatever it is. I want that, particularly when I fly into town and I see, what is it, Buffalo, America City, whatever that says, Josh Allen with his Go America. Let's go. America wants the Bills. Let's go, boys. Go Bills.
Thanks, Gina. I was thinking about it, like, without going too far, that whatever, the Bills and the Chiefs are not actually some sort of evil authoritarian empire over the NFL, but I don't think it's too far a leap to say they are the reason that the Ravens-Bills discourse got toxic. They are the reason that Josh and Lamar gets toxic when people talk about them, because nobody else wins the AFC. And the Bills doing it, I almost wanted to kind of ask a question, because earlier in the year when you and I talked about this at training camp, there are a lot of Bills fans that do not want anybody but Mahomes to win one before Allen.
Mm-hmm.
And once Allen wins one, I feel like that would soften on everything. Like, sure, fine. If Lamar were to get one, that'd be great. I'd be happy for him. Or if Burrow were to get one, then fine. I'd be happy for him and for them. You'd be happy for a lot of fans out there. The Bills represent in this game, and I do think that there's truth to this about, like, being America's team or whatever. The Bills represent hope that someone other than the Chiefs will win something. That is everything the Chiefs end up winning, whether it's Taylor Swift at the games now, and people aren't, I don't think, mad at Taylor Swift specifically, but it's just another thing piled on. Oh, they have something else to bring them more attention?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want that. I want someone else to be in the spotlight for 5 minutes, and, well, hopefully it's the Bills. 803-0550 is our phone number, and 1-888-550-2550 to join us. Sal, coming up top of the hour, we'll prep for Media Day, where everyone's going to talk about this upcoming matchup with these teams that have known each other so well. So stay tuned. Sal, 7 o'clock. Joe Marino of the Locked On Bills podcast at 7:30.
Next.
Let's kick it.
It's cold. You know, I like when it's 30 degrees outside because then you can put your drinks outside and they don't freeze. They just stay like nature's refrigerator. But I hate it when you have some, maybe, six-pack of beer out in nature's refrigerator and it gets so cold you have to bring them in because otherwise they'll explode.
They'll explode?
Yeah.
They won't just become like a slushy material or whatever?
You'll get some explosions.
Uh-oh.
Yep.
Do I have beer in my fridge right now? Or in my fridge garage right now?
Or maybe it's just the sodas that explode. Let's go to our science analyst on the broadcast. Josh, what's the ruling here?
Science. Cold weather makes things explode.
Yeah, it makes things cold, that's for sure. Jeremy and Joe, good morning. Joe, you like a good drought, right? You love droughts.
Oh, I love droughtology, one of my favorite activities.
Sabers droughtology. Mm-hmm. You once said that the Bills drought was more fun than what we're doing now. I think you were kidding mostly.
Most. It was most.
But there was fun to be had.
Yeah.
Here's the key. We just need another drought. And Howard Simon has found the drought. The Bills' road playoff win drought.
Ooh.
Goes back to
90s?
1993.
Okay.
The Bills haven't won a road playoff game since 1993 in Miami.
Okay.
So that is a drought.
Yeah.
You've got some franchises that have just playoff win droughts, playoff appearance droughts, AFC Championship or Super Bowl droughts.
Mm-hmm.
It's been since 1993. They've lost their last 7 road playoff games, including 4 under McDermott.
That will be the thing people attack, right?
If they lose again, that they don't win it on the road.
Yeah.
Maybe
it'll be he can't win the big one, but also he can't win road playoff games.
Yeah,
because it'll be 0-5.
Get a break in. Sal's coming up. Join us on Twitch, on YouTube, on the air here. I'm seeing lots of people can comment on the live streams. You can tell us how awesome we are, which is, Anyway, Sal coming up. We'll get the breakdown on Bills Chiefs, what he's feeling about this game, what to look for today in the comments, the idea that Spencer Brown, Keon Coleman, Dalton Kincaid, players that missed that game are back. Bills Chiefs. It's Chiefs Week on WGR.
WGR Sports Radio 550. Bills, Chiefs, wall-to-wall coverage of the AFC Championship game. Sunday from 10 a.m. till kickoff at 6:30 on the official voice of the Buffalo Bills. WGR Sports Radio 550 and WGR on the Odyssey app. This is a Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update.
The Bills and the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game on Sunday at 6:30. Today, the first practice of the week for both teams. And for the Bills, the injuries that we will be watching for include whether Christian Benford is on the field in a limited participation. He is in the league's concussion protocol. Also, Taylor Rapp is considered day-to-day with a hip injury. And we'll see if we get any information on Matt Milano, who left the final drive against Baltimore, and there was no explanation as to whether that was injury-related or not. So we'll see on him as well. The Barnes Firm Injury Report is brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured for help, call 1-800-8-MILLION. Coaching news around the NFL. Aaron Glenn, the Lions defensive coordinator, leaves New York without committing to being the Jets head coach, although there are reports that the job is still on the table if he wants to take it in New York. He's also a strong candidate in New Orleans. Liam Cohen, the Bucs offensive coordinator, Tampa is reportedly approaching it as though he is going to be offered the head coach job of the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Vikings signed their head coach, Kevin O'Connell, to a long-term contract extension. Last night, Sabers were playing Vancouver late, 10 o'clock puck drop. They get the win, 3-2. They went into the third period, down 1. Got 2 third-period goals from Yuri Kulik and J.J. Peterka. And they will next be in action on Thursday in Calgary at 9 o'clock. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Kickoff 2025 with a new Chevy from Paddock.
It's Sal Capaccio.
Sal Capaccio. Sal Capaccio. Sal Capaccio. Sal Capaccio. Sal Capaccio. Sal Capaccio. Sal Capaccio.
On WGR.
Good morning. Sal Capaccio joining us on the Western Hotline in just one moment. Before we do that, I want to mention something. Actually, Sal, you can just come on in for this because this is kind of funny. Funny, cool, not unexpected, amazing. Bills fans continue to do things that other fan bases occasionally will do this too, and it ends up being that Bills fans motivated to do that. We're up to $50,000 donated to Mark Andrews' charity, his favorite charity, which is Breakthrough T1D, a type 1 diabetes research and advocacy organization. He had a tough moment, and you know, sometimes Bills fans do this when they're mad at a player, sometimes when they feel bad for a player, but either way, $50,000 donated from Bills fans to Breakthrough T1D is yet another testament to how special this fan base is quite often.
Yeah, pretty cool. And he had a tough game. I've been, reading some of the Ravens fans on him, and, obviously there's some empathy and sympathy coming, but a lot of people mad as well. He had a drop earlier in the game, and then he had the fumble, and then he had a drop at the on the 2-point conversion. So, but good on Bills fans, and I know Greg Thompson was a part of that. I think also that we know from Cover One. I want to give him a little plug there because I think he was one of the first people on that, if I saw it correctly, the way it came across. So either way, however that was started, great job on Bills fans, obviously, and it's been recognized around the country for sure. It was tough for me, Sal, watching, as the days pass by, the Ravens fans posting videos of them reacting to the drop. Like that's tough. I mean, I've seen Andrews called Buckner in that spot and whatever. There's all-time moments where players drop and make mistakes, and I saw a guy who a pitcher for the Orioles who was a pitcher in 1982. I don't know if it was Jim Palmer, whoever it was, just kind of expressing how bad he feels for that guy. And whether it's Tyler Bass last year or whatever, you never like to see that side of it where one player is really bearing so much of the brunt of what happened.
Well, and how often is that one player a guy who leads his franchise all time in touchdown receptions and has already established himself as one of the tight ends of his generation?
Right.
This wasn't a backup.
Right. This is retire the number and remember that play all the while.
I don't know if you guys also know, just a little side note here. Apparently, and you can look this up, apparently there was an issue on an airplane with a woman, and Mark Andrews helped save her life.
Yes, because he's also he deals with type 1 diabetes. Like he pricks his finger during games. And he helped on a flight. I remember that was a couple of years ago, or maybe even this year.
Yeah. So just he seems to be a genuinely good human, and at the root of it, these are games played by human beings, refereed by human beings. And I know that gets lost sometimes because we want the referees to be perfect. I get it. But human beings make mistakes. They make special plays, and sometimes they make plays that can be critical to the outcome of games. But good on Bills fans for that. And now obviously turn the page to going to Kansas City this week.
Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline. All right, Sal, before we get to Kansas City, it's been a couple days. We talked on Monday. As the week moved on, have any other, wrap it up in a bow thoughts on the game over the win over Baltimore, whether it's what the Bills did well, what they need to do better? Looking back, any final thoughts?
Yeah, there seems to be a bit of a debate going on about, the game plan and what the Bills' game plan was going into the game and how risky it might have been to play that type of style. And what I mean by that is clearly the Bills, and I said this, you guys know, clearly their game plan was to control the game and, limit the Ravens' opportunities. But when they did make them, they had less margin for error. So if they made a mistake, the Bills could capitalize, and that happened. And the inverse of that as well, if they don't make a mistake, you lose. Well, that's true. But I think the other option is you give them more possessions, more chances for explosive plays. That's been a bit of a debate. And, hey, look, at the end of the day, it worked out. I think it's very interesting that all of the teams who had more yardage lost last week in the divisional round. Every single team that had more yardage lost. The team that got less yardage won because simply they made less mistakes. The team with more yardage made mistakes, and this is playoff football. So I just think that's an interesting part of it, and I agree, no doubt you won't hear me say that the offense didn't stall in the second half. It did. There were a few times where, I thought that, they started playing better, obviously, but the first two drives especially they did. But the Bills stayed with what they felt was their best game plan, which was to make sure they still controlled the game as best as possible. It got a little too close for comfort, there's no doubt. And who knows, maybe if one of those 2-point conversions, there were two of them, by the way, if one of them actually is converted, maybe we have a different story. But that's not the case, and we're not here today. So, I think overall it was the right approach. But I agree that, it leaves you also a little less, margin for error yourself. But you have to make sure then that you play a squeaky clean game, and the Bills did.
We almost saw it tested, right? So, do you have it's almost tough to know, right? Because they really hadn't done it before the game. Like, how much confidence would you have had that if Andrews catches that ball and the Bills get 90 seconds almost to come down and kick the field goal, like, they would have had to open it up then. And again, I don't really know how to feel about what they would have done there because we just hadn't really seen them go shotgun, pass the whole game.
No, that's right. And, I think just on the surface, you have confidence because you have Josh Allen.
Right.
And 90 seconds is quite a while because you don't have to go the whole field. You get the ball at the 30, let's say. You have to go, let's say 40, 50, 40, so 35 to 40 yards, right, in 90 seconds. That's very possible and should be really able to be attained by Josh Allen if everybody is doing what they're supposed to be doing. The question would be it's not but you're not down. You don't get 4 downs. You only get 3 downs. And then, you make a couple mistakes. You're punting back then maybe with 30 seconds left. Who knows? But either way, you're right, Joe. We didn't find it out. Thankfully, we don't have to find it out. The other part of the game plan was, there was very little pass rush, and I agree with that. And even when they came after Lamar, they didn't really necessarily get to him. But there were a couple times, where he had to be. There were a couple. I watched the game back. There were a couple times he had to get rid of the ball quickly when they did heat him up a little bit. But there were other times where the Bills literally just did not go after him. They stood in their spot. Watch the final pass, the final touchdown they had before the 2-point conversion. Watch A.J. Epinesa on that play. He's literally standing there. A guy comes up to me, throws him down. He just stands there. I'm not going after Lamar. I'm standing here. But what happened because of that was it forced your DBs to cover for 10 seconds, which you can't do.
Did you notice, too, who was on the field on that final play, that touchdown play? I think it was Javon Solomon's second snap of the game and Quentin Jefferson's third. I think maybe just Rousseau.
Milano was off, as we talked about. Right? Williams is on.
And Rousseau and Vaughn maybe are just, exhausted because they'd been chasing him the whole drive. They were just at a point where, let's just put whoever's fresh.
Yeah, you're right. So, and by that time, so I think, Listen, so my final bow and thought is I understand the questions about the game plan. It also doesn't mean you can't change your game plan as the game goes on. But at the end of the day, whether you relied on it or however you want to phrase it, the Bills won the game. And the game plan has something to do with that, right? So that's where we are.
Sal Capaccio joining us on the Wester Hotline as we wrap up that Ravens game, move on to the Chiefs. Sal, I think a lot of the conversations around how the game went, what could have gotten better. We're in the playoffs, so it is a little bit different. And any way you win, you win. Like, we're good with that. I look back at the Chiefs game, the first matchup, and Joe brought this up yesterday, that one of the stories of the last game was how good the Bills were on third down and on third and long in that game. They overcame 3rd and 7s, 3rd and 8s. It might have been a game where we say Josh kind of went hero mode, and he runs for the touchdown on 4th and 2. And I wonder if the Bills do their own self-scouting here and the Chiefs do their own self-scouting, what we might see that could be different in this game. And, who's in this lineup is a big part of that as well. So turning the page from the Ravens to the Chiefs, how different do you think the Bills will attack the Chiefs offense than they did the Ravens offense, and the Chiefs defense than they did the Ravens defense?
Let's start with the Chiefs defense when the Bills are on offense. One thing that I've noticed looking into this game, I don't know the reason. I'd like to see the Chiefs' rush defense was one of the best in the league through 3/4 of the year. When the Bills played them, they could not run the ball. And I think that's why they got in those 3rd and long, guys, right? Yeah. They got in 3rd and long because they averaged 3.4 yards a carry. That's not good enough. I want to read you since the Cleveland game. They play Cleveland in December. 6.6, 4.9, 6.5. And then they had the game against Denver where, they got killed, but Denver didn't run the ball that great. But, for some reason, I don't know why, the Chiefs' rush defense has not been nearly as good. And last week, 5.1 they allowed per carry against the Texans team with a banged-up Joe Mixon and not a great offensive line. I think this game, I'd like to see what the reasoning is, but it feels to me like the Bills might be able to run the ball a lot better in this game than they did the first game for whatever reason.
Well, I'll give you one reason.
If that's the case, then I think you want to be able to do that.
One reason is Spencer Brown. You want to run the ball better. Having Spencer Brown out there, who is a road-grading offensive lineman in the run game, he missed that game.
Right, and I'm saying, but from their side, from the Chiefs' side, they've given up a lot more yards. Is what I'm saying.
Right.
Like, why have the Chiefs been not nearly as good at running the ball? But you're right. In that game, the Bills couldn't run the ball. Why have the Chiefs? not nearly as good as stopping the run? Is it just also circumstance because they kind of had the 1 seed, which they really didn't? But the last few games, maybe they were. Maybe there's nothing to read into it. But I do feel that to your point, Jeremy, about 3rd downs. I think the Bills were in 3rd and long a little too often.
Yeah.
And if they can run the ball better, the way they have pretty much all year, and like the Chiefs have been allowing that a little bit more, I think you get in much more manageable 3rd downs, and now you start controlling the game a little bit better.
The Bills, I'm opening up the game log from the first one, and this is something that I would imagine Joe Brady and his staff are talking about with the offense this week. The first drive of the game, the Bills go down, they score, and they take a 7-0 lead against the Chiefs, and it's converting a 3rd and 6, a 3rd and 8. Second possession, they convert a 3rd and 9. They ultimately punt on a 4th and 8. They convert another 3rd and 9 and 3rd. They were very, very good on 3rd down. So
every one of their touchdown drives, they converted a 3rd and 8 or longer.
Yeah, and that's a big deal. So whether it's about staying on schedule, whatever it is, find a way. But this is a part about Allen, his maturity, finding the right reads, the cohesiveness of the offense. They'll have just about everything they need for this game. The defense, we've got questions. We'll maybe find out some answers about that. But the first matchup, they win and put up 30, and now they have everybody they need on offense, and hopefully that can help make a difference.
Yeah, I agree. And Spencer Brown is key, obviously. He's a really good player in this game. It's going to be different in this game. They're on the road. And speaking of that side, you can't get to your checks as quickly. There was a play in the game this past week, and I'm rewatching the game. Tony Romo made a point of how the Bills checked us to a run because the Ravens didn't have the right defense to whatever they had, and it was a really nice check. Well, you can't do that as much when you're on the road. It's tougher you have to have hand signals. You can, but it's a little tougher. You might get out of the huddle a little later. All the operational stuff's got to matter so much this week. All these little things that the little details that go into it. Get out of the huddle a little bit quicker. You're on the road, so it's going to be tougher to get those plays in. That way you can identify, and if you have to make a check, you're not, you're able to do it without hand signals, or with hand signals, but a little bit quicker. So that's something that's going to matter in this game. And then on the other side of the ball, I mean, the Chiefs' offensive line has been the question mark this year. And, man, the Houston Texans got after Mahomes last week. The Bills do not have the same pass rush that the Houston Texans have. But they can still get a bit of a pass rush, right? And I say it like that. I don't want to say like, oh my God, their pass rush is amazing, but they did get to Mahomes a little bit last time as far as he forced him into an interception, right? You have to take advantage of that offensive line. You really have to. And I think that's got to be the key for this week. The Bills have to take advantage of the Chiefs' offensive line. The Chiefs are not going to be able to run the ball against the Bills the way that the Ravens ran the ball, but they still have good running backs. Pacheco, we all know it, right? The way he runs, his angry runs. But again, look at the Chiefs' rush offense recently. 3.5. I'm not even counting the Denver game. Denver doesn't even count. Their yards per carry, guys, 3.9, 3.8, 3.8, 4.4, 3.5. They've run for over 4 yards a carry one time. That was the December 21st game against Houston over the last month.
Yeah, they won't exactly have to sell out to stop the run, one wouldn't think.
Correct.
Yeah. Defensively, Sal, we're waiting for updates on Taylor Rapp, Christian Benford, and Matt Milano. And the Milano one, I don't know if it's just human nature to kind of treat that one as the strangest because we know the least about it. But obviously a big day at One Bills Drive. And, Taylor Rapp being day-to-day, I already think that is a good development because it looked a lot worse than that. Oh. Christian Benford in concussion protocol, that I don't know, that's a coin toss. I don't know what much to say about that. But 3 important players and an update coming today.
Yeah, so we'll hear from Sean McDermott today at 12 noon. The team will be on the practice field after that. We won't be able to watch practice. It's a walkthrough. As they have been doing on Wednesdays. And then we'll hear from players after, but Sean will let us know at 12 noon, and then we'll have an official injury report after practice. We'll take them one by one here. Yeah, Benford's in concussion protocol. You just never know, as you said, as that goes. Everybody's different. We know last week Ray Davis was in protocol. They had 7 days. He actually wound up clearing. He played. So, we'll see where he progresses. If he's on the field today in a limited capacity, that's a really encouraging sign for his progress in the protocol. But we'll see where that goes. The other one, amazing. Taylor Rapp, I'm standing there watching him come out of the tent, get loaded into the cart, and he is in a lot of pain. And he gets on the cart, and then he goes in. We were told in the sidelines going in for x-rays. Then when he's declared out, that's just not good. After you hear he's getting x-rays and then he's declared out. But then for Sean to say on Monday he's day-to-day, I agree, Jeremy. It sounds just really way better than it kind of could have been. It doesn't mean he's playing on Sunday. We'll see. Is he out there? Hopefully maybe whatever was bothering him is a lot better and, he can get out there and play. So we'll go from there. But I agree. It wasn't week to week. It's day to day. And then Milano's a mystery. So it was noticed by several that Matt Milano was not on the field for the final 3 plays, including the touchdown, and then also not on the field for the 2-point conversion. Sean McDermott was asked about that on Monday, and he said he wasn't aware that it was for any injury, but he also added that he hadn't gotten updates on anything from his training staff. So there's a bit of a mystery there. I will say the internet sleuthing was, going on, and you could see the final play that he took. He ran and he mirrored and he was spying on Lamar. And at the very end, Lamar released the ball and Matt hits him. And there just seems that the camera kind of pans away. You can't see it as much, even on the All-22. And you can see Matt just kind of, I don't know, jump up, skip up, just a quick, almost as if something happened. You couldn't tell exactly what it was. But there's, like I said, the internet sleuthing was, then he's standing on the field, though. And I never got an update on the sidelines. Not like he went to the medical tent or anything like that. And you could see him on the field, standing on the field, watching the rest of the plays. And then in the locker room, the Bills do post pictures from the locker room after the game, guys, celebration, whatever. Matt's in a few of those pictures, and one of them, he's standing there next to Terrell Bernard smiling. So let's just hope nothing is going on with Matt Milano. But obviously, until we hear from Sean McDermott today, we don't know.
Yeah.
And really, because I feel like when he did spy Lamar, Jackson did not have a ton of rushing. And I saw Milano not spying every play, but I think more than anybody else was.
Yes, for sure.
More confirmation that he is, I still don't want to say all the way back to the all-pro Matt Milano, but I feel like every game that passes, I feel more inclined to say he's pretty darn close to it.
Yeah, I mean, he was getting a lot of praise nationally, right? I mean, I think Orlovsky had something on it yesterday, maybe, but if it was him or someone else, but he made critical plays. The batted 2-point conversion, that's a high IQ play right there. Like, he felt that where it was going. He sees, he kind of knows, he's following the eyes of Lamar, and then he kind of has to turn back and move his hands a little bit. That's a critical play that he made there. There was another play on Greg Rousseau really made the play. I think it was, or AJ Panessa made the play on a sweep, and Milano came to clean it up, but he was right there. He did a great job to knife through a block. Yeah, he was, and you're right. I think, Joe, that him spying on Lamar is a really good sign of how at least how the Bills feel about where he is, right? And guys, I mean, the Bills have used a spy on Patrick Mahomes before, and I would expect them to use a spy. Doesn't have to be every play. Lamar is almost every play you're doing it. I think in this one, it's 3rd and long. Do not let Patrick Mahomes steal those first downs. He steals 1 or 2 first downs at least every game on 3rd and long with his legs. And even when the Bills have spied, he's done it. Teams have spied, he's done it. But the Bills are going to probably put a spy on him in those situations, and it has been Dorian Williams, and he's done a decent job as well. But we'll see if it's Williams or Milano. We'll see if Milano's available in this game. And then I think the other thing about this game is we're not talking about base versus nickel, but I do want to bring up that last year when these two teams played in the playoffs, that's how the Chiefs won a lot. That's a big reason why the Chiefs won. They went 3 tight ends, and they just big boyed the Bills, and the Bills kind of stayed in nickel. And I do think the Bills might face that dilemma again this week against the Chiefs, a team that we know that has not been super explosive. They're going to have something. And I would not be surprised if the Chiefs go that route this week, especially after watching the second half with the Ravens against the Bills.
Back to your spy point, and I want to get a call in here from Bob in Syracuse. 1 second, though. Back to your spy point, I was watching Brian Baldinger did a breakdown of the Bills spying Mahomes. And Sal, the biggest difference between spying Lamar and spying Mahomes is that when you trigger as the spy, you can do it with much less fear. Like, Mahomes isn't getting around Terrell Bernard or Dorian Williams the way that Lamar might. Like, to me, that is a very, very big difference that, Baldinger put up a couple of clips, the play is going on, and then as soon as you get the opportunity to close on him, Bernard did the job, brought him down. And Mahomes this year, we went through the numbers yesterday. The Chiefs are always at the top 5 in sack percentage, being near the bottom of the league. And this year, Mahomes, he gets sacked, average. Like, just any old quarterback gets sacked, and that is taking away one of their superpowers. So I would expect them to use the spy, and I would expect the spy to trigger a lot quicker than you would against Lamar.
I would have said, and probably before this year, maybe before this last game, but the risk is versus Lamar and Patrick Mahomes is when you trigger on Mahomes, he's going to make all those plays out of structure. But Lamar's been doing that all year, too. Oh, my gosh. And he made a lot of those plays on Sunday. He really is special when you watch him. He can really make a lot of those plays out of structure and make those crossfield passes. We saw a couple of those, like Josh Allen, like Patrick Mahomes. He really is in that tier now where he can do that while he's on the run. He's keeping his eyes downfield. He's not just running. That's what makes Lamar really special. The other thing about the pass rush and about the Chiefs and sacks is, listen, Joe Thuney has been playing left tackle. He's a really terrific guard. They moved him out to tackle because they just didn't really have any of their options the way they were playing. He's played well out there. However, I will say against the Texans, I think it showed a little bit that he has really good technique, but when it comes to speed rushers and a little power, like when you get those real legit edge rushers, that's where Joe Thuney gets put in a little bit of a bind.
Sal Capaccio. What time for McDermott today, Sal?
12 noon. We'll be out there at 12 noon today. We'll give an update on injuries, obviously, and anything else that comes from One Bills Drive.
All right, very good. Thank you, Sal.
All right, you got it, guys.
Sal Capaccio. Bob, we'll get your call. Sorry, we got to go up against the break. Joe Marino going to break down the Bills and Chiefs game with us as well when we get back. 803-0550, our phone number. You can, of course, give us a call. You can now watch us on YouTube and on Twitch if you do that kind of thing. We are broadcasting on. We're multimedia stars. We're like the Simon Cast back when Howard Simon was everywhere. That's now us.
The Simon Cast.
You remember that? Or are you too young?
I'm too young for the Simon Cast.
Let me tell you, he was Howard.
I've seen the commercial.
Oh, it's an incredible commercial. It's the best. And now that's us. Like 30 years later. All right, we'll get a break in. Jeremy and Joe, 803-0550 on WGR.
Sports Radio 550. The official voice of the Buffalo Bills, WGR Sports Radio 550 and WGR550.com. This is a Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update.
Bills and Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, and today, just after 12 o'clock, we'll get our first injury report of the week. Taylor Rapp is day-to-day with a hip injury. This is the status for now on these guys. Christian Benford's in concussion protocol, and we don't know about Matt Milano, who missed the final few game plays against the Ravens in favor of Dorian Williams, and we don't know if that was injury-related or what. So Milano worth watching as well. The Barnes Firm Injury Report brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured for help, call 1-800-8-MILLION. Some coaching news around the league. Tampa Bay Times' Rick Stroud reports that the Buccaneers are preparing as though their offensive coordinator, Liam Cohen, is going to be offered the head coach job in Jacksonville. Kevin O'Connell signs a contract extension with the Vikings, so put to bed any of those rumors about the Vikings getting trade calls about O'Connell. Josh McDaniels expected to be hired as the Patriots' new offensive coordinator, his third stint on the job in New England, if that ends up happening. And Aaron Glenn, the Lions' defensive coordinator, left New York without taking the Jets' head coach job. The reports, though, are that the job is on the table if he wants it. He's also a leading candidate for the Saints job at this point. Sabres win last night, 3-2 over Vancouver. 2 third-period goals from Yuri Kulik and J.J. Peterka. Their next in action Thursday at 9 in Calgary. Those are your Paddock Chevrolet sports headlines. Kickoff 2025 with a new Chevy from Paddock.
Call or text WGR at 803-0550 or post on X at WGR550 and get connected to Jeremy and Joe now. Brought to you by Northtown Kia. Check out the 2025 Kia K4 sedan. Named finalist for the 2025 North American Car of the Year.
Kulik just on his 7th draw. There's a shot, scores! Another face-off win by Yuri Kulik, and J.J. Peterka puts the Sabres on top 3-2 with 6:27 to go in the third here in Vancouver.
Moments of the game brought to you by Firth Jewelers. For all the moments in your life, go forth to Firth. Yuri Kulik, 3-point night as the Sabres get a come-from-behind win and beat Vancouver.
It's playoff football, right? And it's cold outside, you know, the weather. And the field sometimes aren't on just straight terms with the footing. And you need to be able to be a physical football team and be able to establish the line of scrimmage. And I'm fortunate for the offensive line that we have that, you know, the trust that I have in them and our backs understanding. And it always points to the offensive line, but the wide receivers and the tight ends that we have in the run game that are doing all the unselfish work. And it's critical. And again, whether it works or not, it's the confidence and the trust in them that they're out there doing it and they're feeling it and they're understanding how the blocks are approaching it. And that communication, that trust in them. Like, we've gotten to this point because of our guys and the trust that we have in them, and that can't change.
Bills offensive coordinator Joe Brady on the offensive philosophy. It'll be Bills and Chiefs, of course, a much different animal than Bills Ravens, and we'll talk about it with Joe Marino, the Locked On Bills podcast, as we count down the days to Chiefs week. Joe, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. Good to be back with you.
Yeah, good to have you. I listened to your All-22 review. I think for those of you out there that watched the game, Joe, it was fun listening to your immediate reaction and then going back and watch the film because I think you maybe could help people get through. It felt like they were conservative at the end of the game in the second half, but in reality it comes down to maybe some execution that needed to be better. It was not as if they went into some sort of crazy shell against Baltimore. It's just, you know, you have to get the results, not just, game plan to be a little aggressive.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good way to sum it up, some of my live reactions compared to what the film study revealed. And, you know, you're watching that game live. It's the third quarter. The Bills have this great opportunity to double dip and go up 28-10 there in that opening drive. And, of course, they go 3 and out, and then they go 4 and out on the next drive. They get like 18 yards on 2 drives. And you have this real opportunity to extend the lead, and you're listening to Tony Romo talk about how they got to let Josh Allen make these plays. And well, you go back to the tape and you get the clarity that you're looking for. And I think it just came down to 2 massive execution errors. One would be on that first drive that Josh Allen has Dalton Kincaid on a outbreaking pattern, and you know it's a low throw that you'd love for Dalton to be able to dig out. You'd love for Josh Allen to get that ball up a little bit more. You connect there. It's a nice play. You extend the drive, and you know, who knows what happens with the rest of that drive. Then you get to the next one. It's 3rd and 5. The screenplay to Dawson Knox that has people all fired up. Well, first of all, Josh Allen checked into that play. He wanted that, and it's a good look. It was a great look for the play. I completely understand why Josh made that choice. And I think you had two problems there. Dawson catches the ball, and he needed to take an outside path and where his blocks were. Instead, he goes inside where he didn't have blocks. And then, Kyle Van Noy was kind of unaccounted for, and he winds up making the tackle. So it's just a couple of execution errors, but you have two great chances at first downs. And if you extend those drives, who knows what happens with a fresh set of downs. It wasn't a situation where the Bills said, you know what, we'd love for this game to be close. Let's get Baltimore back into this thing. They made a couple of execution errors, and, Baltimore was able to carve away at that lead. I mean, the Ravens didn't punt. They either turned the ball over or they scored. And so the Bills tried to compress that game with a lead, and, they had a couple of execution errors that made it a little bit complicated.
How much, Joe, do you buy the idea, there's like that triangle of who was a good matchup for who? How much do you buy the idea that the Ravens are a tougher matchup for the Bills than the Chiefs? And, there should be a little bit more celebration, just not in that they won, but it doesn't matter how they won. It's they beat their tougher matchup. I know we don't want to say that like going into a game that's more important, but do you buy that?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think there's a lot to be concerned about with the Chiefs. I mean, they're such a battle-tested team that have won this game, over the last 2 years, 3 of the last 5. I mean, they hosted 6 of the last 7 years. This is a very familiar stage. It's Patrick Mahomes. There's a lot to be concerned about. But if you just go matchup-wise, Baltimore's a bigger problem. I mean, the narratives that fueled the Bills, it's great that they fueled them, but they existed for a reason. The Bills did have to structurally change the way that they played defense, and they did need to have a level of variance to be able to win that game. They needed every one of those Baltimore mistakes to be able to get out of that thing with a win. So, yeah, there's no shame in admitting it's a tough matchup, and the Bills were able to not make the same crippling mistakes that Baltimore did and got out of there with a win. And I think any run that a team's ever went on, there's going to be a moment like that where, hey, something goes your way. And it finally happened for the Bills. And obviously there's a lot more to do, but yeah, I think that was the embodiment of survive and advance. And, in the playoffs, it really doesn't matter. There's no style points. You either win or you lose. Your season continues or it doesn't, and the Bills found a way to get out of that game with a win.
How much do you think the Bills should get credit for forcing Baltimore into those mistakes? Maybe not even on the individual plays, although you could do that too. But first half especially, Joe, they kept Henry in check. The yardage, he had most of his yardage on that one drive in the third quarter. So they came out physical to stop Henry. And I don't know, it felt like their game plan was, I don't even know if this is, debatable. Their game plan was, we're going to stop Henry and keep Jackson in the pocket and pray that he's going to make a couple mistakes.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that. And you could look at least 2 of those plays and feel like they're unforced errors, whether that's the Lamar interception or his fumble, and the drop, right, by Andrews. They feel like unforced errors, but I think that they're symptoms of the way that the Bills played the game defensively, where it was, hey, we're going to take away Derrick Henry, and that invited throws, right? The Bills were very intentional. They wanted to hit him in the backfield and slow his feet and, rally and get population to football and make tackles, and because they did that, Derrick Henry had only 16 rushes. He should have had 30. I mean, that was an absolute gift for the Buffalo Bills, and when they did rely on Henry at times, you felt that dominating presence that he can be, and so you're not going to be overly impressed that Lamar Jackson, failed to look off a safety and threw a lollipop down the field right to Taylor Rapp, or that he fumbled the ball and nobody knocked it out. But I think it's a consequence of what the Bills did to put the ball more into Lamar's hands. And every elimination game looks the same for Lamar Jackson. Mistakes, mistakes, mistakes. The Bills invited him to do it, and he did. And I think that's a consequence of exactly how the Bills chose to play the game, in addition to really good job of varying their pressure looks. I mean, the Bills blitzed a ton and had a bunch of 5-man pressures that were very effective. And then they also did the exact opposite, where they'd rush 3, they'd have a spy, and really allow Lamar at times to have that comfort to move around and make throws. But then there are other times where he was absolutely heated up by this Bills defense. And I think that variance maybe invited some of those mistakes. So, yeah, they look like unforced errors, but there's a lot of deposits that go into those opportunities for those mistakes to happen.
So with that in mind, you mentioned structurally changing the defense. Is this back to, on some level, the Bills' comfort zone? Now they go back to what they like to do, which is invite the run? Because Kansas City, their offense this year, they've got some explosive players, But the run game, they do not get explosive plays, which is exactly what Baltimore does do. So is it back to basics kind of for the Bills?
Yeah, it's interesting because the Bills have been so successful defending Patrick Mahomes and this offense during the regular season, and it's just not the same thing in the postseason. And so, I mean, you got to probably look at that operationally and figure out, okay, what are these big differences? That's probably a lot of that's health. And if we're just being honest, we know the players the Bills haven't had in the postseason against Kansas City. But I do think that, when you look at this most recent performance that the Bills had against Patrick Mahomes, which I think was probably their best defensive performance, was they did such a good job of using their five-man pressures and really compressing the pocket around Mahomes and taking away that ability for him to really be creative as an off-script playmaker. And Mahomes held onto the ball a ton. It was one of the largest time-to throws that you'll ever see from Patrick Mahomes at a game against Buffalo. There just wasn't a whole lot of room for him to operate the way that he likes to. And so I thought the Bills did a good job of kind of taking the air out of the pocket and compressing things around Mahomes. And, he didn't have the same opportunities to get the ball out. And so I wonder if they do kind of tap into some of their base personnel if they continue to play some more man coverage. They played 30% man last time against Kansas City. So they got to look at what they did, find out what they'd be successful with. And certainly Andy Reid and company knows those principles and will have their own counters. So I thought round one went to the Bills coaching staff, and it's going to be even tougher to win round two.
We were just going through this on Twitter a little bit, Joe. The Bills' run game in that previous meeting in the regular season, and it was one of their worst days of the year for the running backs especially. Allen got there, with the scramble at the end. But they were missing Spencer Brown. They were missing Alec Anderson, so they converted a lot of third and longs. And I guess it is good to still know in your back pocket, like if you have a game like that, Josh Allen is so good that you could still win it, but how confident are you that the Bills' run game will look different than it did in November?
Yeah, highly confident. And Spencer Brown is such an engine for this rushing offense. I mean, his performance against Baltimore was just so phenomenal as a run blocker. I mean, if you rewatch the Bills game against the Ravens, just watch 79. He is just blasting open holes, blocking multiple people on a lot of different snaps, and a lot of those runs went to the right, and Spencer Brown was just making space. And he didn't play against Kansas City, and I thought Ryan Vandermark, who's the Bills' fourth tackle, did a decent job, but he's not Spencer Brown. And Alec Anderson only played 8 snaps in that game, and wound up being the lowest percentage of snaps he's played all season long. And I think a lot of that was maybe some concern with being down Spencer Brown, that you kind of need your super sub to be available if necessary along that offensive line, so you kind of maybe take away from some of what he brings. But, I mean, everybody knows that this Bills' offensive rushing success is largely due to that incorporation of that utility blocker. And usually, Anderson plays 20-25% of snaps. So Spencer Brown plus more of the utility tight end, I think, opens up a lot for this Bills rushing offense, plus the increased appetite to run Josh Allen in the postseason. I do think you're going to see a really different Bills rushing offense in this matchup compared to last.
Joe Marino, Locked On Bills podcast. I don't often ask you this kind of question, Joe, but whatever. It's the AFC Championship game. Confidence level? We don't ask you to make picks, but I mean, it's a big one. Like, just how do you feel?
Surprisingly good. I mean, obviously, there's just the whole dynamic of Mahomes in the postseason, right? He doesn't lose very often, and it's at their place, and you certainly are mindful of all of that. But I do think that the Bills present a lot of challenges to Kansas City. It doesn't feel like Kansas City's played good football all season long. They get these boa constrictor type wins and get out of there and escape, and they just keep doing it. And obviously the Bills are the one team that could disrupt their formula, but you got to do it again in the postseason. You got to beat Patrick Mahomes twice in a season. All of that's difficult. And so, yeah, I think if you just look at the game for what it is, I think there's a lot to be confident in with the Bills. But then when you bring up the circumstances, that's where the nerves kick in, and you start to find a little bit of doubt.
Yeah. Joe Marino, Locked On Bills podcast. We talk every Wednesday. All right. I'm just going to say, we hope we do a Super Bowl preview next week.
What do we, Jeremy,
and the week after that?
Look like? What do we do for 2 weeks? Ready for a Super Bowl?
I don't know. I have no idea, but I'm ready to find out, Joe.
Right. Me too.
All right, Joe Marino, Locked On Bills podcast. As we welcome him every Wednesday at this time. Thanks, Joe.
All right, guys. Thank you.
All right. Subscribe to the Bills Locked On Bills podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. I mean, whether it was, I mentioned it with him, Joe. on Sunday and Monday, it was, what's the deal with the third quarter? And then, he went back and watched some of it and broke it down. Like, okay, I get it. It happens. 803-0550. We'll get caught up on a phone call with Carrington Harrison, who talks Chiefs. He'll join us at the top of the hour to talk about Kansas City's road to this spot. We've been unimpressed by them. Are they peaking right now as they host a 7th consecutive AFC Championship game? Jeremy and Joe, give us a ring. 803-0550 on WGR.
Never
All right, quick Sabres note, and then I want to laugh at the Jets for a minute.
Time for Building a Better Strategy, presented by SalesRebel.ai. Build better strategies. Visit SalesRebel.ai today to learn more. The trade deadline is, you could say, approaching, right? It's like a month away. Jason Zucker is now on a 30-goal pace after scoring the other night. So, first-round pick for Jason Zucker?
First-round pick.
I mean, first-round picks get traded for like everything these days, right? Barclay Goodrow got traded for a first-round pick, I think.
All right.
So maybe.
You think they told Zucker that when they signed him, like, hey, if it doesn't go well, we'll trade you somewhere?
I would bet they saw any veteran with any clout whatsoever, they make that agreement.
Yeah, aren't they going to want him back, too?
I mean, I would imagine how good he's been. They're trying to cling to him and get him to sign an extension, and if the answer is no, then he says, just trade me to a cup contender.
Yeah. One quick thing on the Jets. Yesterday, the report was Aaron Glenn, the goal is to not let him leave the building. Narrator, he left the building.
On their plane, too.
They made a substantial offer, and the goal was, listen, we're bringing this guy in, and we're not going to let him leave. What's that? He left? How'd he get away? What? What'd he say? Oh, thanks, guys. Really, I'm flattered. That's awesome. I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
We'll see if Aaron Glenn lands with the Jets. Josh McDaniels, the Patriots. Give me the Patriots for second place next year. Want to put it on the bet board?
Ooh.
Let's talk about it later.
Yeah.
803-0550. Carrington Harrison on the Chiefs. When we get back, we have a really good Let's Get Stupid for 8:30 as well here on WGR.
Call or text WGR Sports Radio 550 and WGR on the Odyssey app. This is a Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update.
Wednesday, first practice of the week for the Bills ahead of the AFC Championship against Kansas City on Sunday. And the injuries to watch for will be Taylor Rapp, who's day-to-day with a hip injury, Christian Benford, who's in concussion protocol, and then Matt Milano, who we don't even know if he's injured or not. He came off the field on the final drive against the Ravens, and there was no explanation as to whether or not that was injury-related or not. So see if he's on the report later today. The Bills will meet with the media at 12, so injury report should come out right around then. Coaching news around the NFL. Aaron Glenn, the Lions defensive coordinator, leaves New York without committing to being their next head coach, although the reporting is that the job is his if he wants it, and that there was a substantial offer made by the Jets to Glenn. He is scheduled to interview with the Saints later this week. He's also leading candidate for the New Orleans job. Josh McDaniels is going back to New England for a third stint as their offensive coordinator. That, according to Ian Rappaport, he'll be under Mike Vrabel. Kevin O'Connell signs an extension to be the Vikings head coach for multiple seasons. He was going into the final year of his deal. And Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times reports the Bucs are preparing for Liam Cohen, their offensive coordinator, to be offered the Jaguars head coaching job. Sabres in action last night. They get the win, 3-2 over Vancouver. 2 third-period goals. Get the win, and the Sabres are next in action Thursday in Calgary. That'll be a 9 o'clock puck drop here on WGR. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Kickoff 2025 with a new Chevy from Paddock.
The Chiefs are a team where, the other team might control the game, but the Chiefs win the moments, right? That's what it, and we're seeing that from Buffalo. You put on top of that, they're the only team that out-momented the Chiefs this year in a head-to-head matchup, right? Whether it was the fourth down big run for Josh Allen to score the touchdown and put the Chiefs away. So they've shown they can give the Chiefs issues. And I think they are a physically tougher team than any of the years prior to this with Buffalo. So they're ready to go in Kansas City and win this. He doesn't have to carry the whole squad and do everything. He's been very patient. He's mature. He checks the ball down when he's supposed to. He runs and get a few yards when he's supposed to. Josh Allen was the guy a few years ago, like Lamar last night, where you're like, oh, I can't believe he did that crazy thing there in that big moment, right? That's gone away.
Chris Sims on the Kay Adams Show ahead of Bills-Chiefs, the AFC Championship game. Jeremy and Joe on WGR. We are streaming on YouTube and on Twitch as well. You can join us there. Joining us on the Wester Hotline, old friend. We meet again, Carrington Harrison. Carrington, thanks for taking some time. I was on your show last week. I said I hope to talk to you this week, and here we are for another Bills-Chiefs playoff matchup.
You want to know how I know that it's Chiefs and Bills week? There's a couple of signs. Number one, you send me a text. I'm always happy. I know it's coming. I know you're going to send me a text. The second reason that I know is Matt Milano is on the injury report. He's always hurt whenever the Chiefs and Bills play each other. I'm not even sure if Matt Milano is real at this point. You guys remember the Cowboys had this linebacker. His name was, Dat Wynn. You remember Dat Wynn? Dat Wynn was always hurt. Dat Wynn is now Matt Milano. You do get a second chance at life.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We actually don't even really know if he's hurt or not. It's just like weird that he came off and no one knows why. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that could be right.
He's always hurt. You know he's hurt.
Yeah. Well, Carrington, it's another matchup, and there's a million ways to kind of like rehash how these have all gone. The Bills do well in the regular season. The Chiefs find their answers in the postseason. I guess I want to ask you, most of this year, the story about the Chiefs has been how they're obviously very good, but it's just one-score games. They're just getting by. And to my eye, that kind of changed down the stretch. Have they gotten better as the season has gone along?
Yeah, absolutely. It was funny when the Chiefs had that 3 games in 11 days stretch. It was kind of like that was their rallying cry. I know the perception around the Chiefs is they're like these golden boy pampered by the league, but the Chiefs don't really do a lot of complaining. But I would say the Chiefs, they started complaining about that stretch before the stretch even started. Mahomes said something about it. DeAndre Hopkins said something about it. Chris Jones. So like the veterans of the team kind of used it as, hey, this isn't fair. We've done everything the league wants us to do, and they have us playing on the 15th, 21st, and 25th of December. And the Chiefs just really rallied around those 3 games. and just came out swinging. They played the Cleveland Browns. They beat up on them, and then they had two playoff teams. They had Houston and Pittsburgh in back-to-back games, and they really dominated those games. And I thought that gave the Chiefs really good momentum heading into the postseason where, all right, we have the 1 seed clinched. We can rest. We can, be ready for the postseason and go from there. That was kind of the turning point for this team, I think, was that stretch where they had those 3 games in 11 days.
When Marquise Brown came back, which was right around that same time, it seemed like the offense had a little more jump to it. How much do you think his return has mattered to that? And, the other weapons too, like Worthy and Kelsey, like, is it in your eyes too that the team looks more polished, especially offensively, down the stretch than they were early in the year?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think this is the most complete their offense has been since the Tyreek Hill trade. Now, I know it's not really evidence of what we just saw in the postseason games. It was funny because Juju didn't have a catch, Hollywood didn't have a catch, and DeAndre Hopkins. The only wide receiver that had a catch was Xavier Worthy in that game. But I do think that the Chiefs just have more weapons than before. You got 2 running backs with Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt. So the team just has more, and we already know in the postseason you can just write down that Travis Kelce's going to have 80 yards on Sunday. Like, that's the floor of how many yards he's going to have. He could have 150 yards, but he's not having 27 in a game of this magnitude. That I just think last year they went into it with only 3 players that they trusted offensively. Now there's probably 5 to 7 players they trust on offense.
A diversity of weapons might be something these two teams have in common. On Kelsey, I saw Mahomes was asked about. You asked him about this. Could it be Travis Kelce's last home game?
Yeah, he came on the show yesterday, and it's certainly a topic. Now, I don't think that Travis Kelce is retiring, but sometimes you just got to ask the question and see what happens. So, I don't want to get super deep into Kelce's contract, but Kelce has a roster bonus of $16.5 million if he's on the team March 1st. And so I don't think that Travis Kelce is giving up the $16 million, but at his age and where he is in his career, you have to always think, hey, this is their last home game of the year. Could Travis Kelce retire at the end of the season if they win the Super Bowl again? So, yeah, I asked him if he thought that Sunday could be Kelce's last game at Arrowhead.
What about Worthy while we're on the weapons? These two teams will be connected through that trade at the draft. And from my eyes, Carrington, he looks like he's become a more well-rounded receiver as the year's gone on. You just mentioned he was the only receiver with a catch in the game. So, I mean, I don't think he's the number 1, right? Because that's Kelsey, or would you say Worthy and Kelsey are maybe even on kind of equal playing fields for their importance to the offense?
Yeah, I would have said that Worthy was the number 1 before the postseason, but just when the postseason happens, I don't know what it is. Travis Kelce just turns into a different person. It's funny because against Houston, I know you guys watched the game. I mean, it wasn't like Kelce was really great. It just was Houston just had no interest in covering Travis Kelce, and we're like, hey, just do what you want to do in the middle of the field. Yeah, I would say that I think the biggest difference maybe in the Chiefs' offense from when the Bills played them earlier in the season was I think they were so hell-bent on trying to have Xavier Worthy be that down-the-field big home run threat that they were just always looking for that one big play downfield. I think they've kind of gone away from that, and they've kind of used Xavier Worthy more as an extension of the run game. Screens, kind of like how they used Rashee Rice last year. And when they've kind of found his role and his niche on this offense, he's really flourished, and it's just really expanded for him. He's probably not going to be a guy that has 100 yards on Sunday, but he's going to have 4 catches for 65 yards, and he's going to have one play that kind of starts as a play that seems mundane, but he's going to make one guy miss, and with his speed, he's going to turn it into a 30-yard gain. Once they've kind of found what Xavier Worthy could do in this offense, that's also another thing that's really got it going.
Carrington Harrison of 610 Sports Radio in Kansas City. All right, so the defense also got healthier too. Jalen Watson's return. I'd seen some numbers throughout the season where when he got hurt, the Chiefs' defense started giving up explosive plays. He was designated to return. How big of a difference is it when he's in there?
Yeah, so a big stat with Jalen Watson was teams completed 60% of their passes when Jalen Watson was healthy. They completed 68% of their passes when he got hurt. So he's just been a drastic difference defensively for what it is. I actually think if we are going of like total picture, and kind of like why I'm picking the Chiefs to win this game. Number one, it's home, and kind of like last week with Baltimore. Like, I picked Buffalo because I just never seen Lamar win that kind of game before in his career. And I got to see it first before I pick it. I think the reason Buffalo won the first time is I think that Buffalo really exploited the Chiefs' defensive line. And on that fourth down play where Buffalo decides to go for it, I just don't think Kansas City had the push to stop them. Now with Charles Omenihu, their defensive line is just radically different than it was the last time. You saw on Saturday against the Texans, their defensive line just got so much constant pressure, and that's really transformed their defense the last 6 weeks or so. When they've gotten him back, it's changed the pass rush for Chris Jones. It's changed things for George Karlaftis, who had 3 sacks. Mike Dana, who's a rotational piece that maybe isn't going to get the national conversation. He's been really good. The addition of Charles Omenihu, who was out for the first Bills game with a torn ACL, and now he's back. He's really, really been maybe their most important acquisition the second half of the season. A lot of people talk about D-Hop and some of the other moves. Them getting Charles Omenihu has been the biggest positive for this team.
All right, you think the Chiefs will win, which that's fine. You know, you picked the Bills to beat the Chiefs back in Week 11. If the Bills do win, what is it that happens in this game that you think turns it?
I think it's Josh Allen. I mean, I know there's been a lot of back and forth on who the NFL MVP is. I think there were certainly times throughout the year you could argue that Josh Allen was playing as better than any quarterback in the NFL. I mean, I also think, you know, one of the things I've kind of been like stewing in my head and kind of waiting to talk about on the show is eventually Josh Allen wins this game. Just history tells you this. Eventually Peyton Manning beat Tom Brady. Tom Brady was not undefeated all time against Peyton Manning. Eventually it happened. How long can Kansas City continue to stay ahead of the Buffalo Bills? They've played this game 3 times. The Chiefs have won 3 times. Josh Allen is eventually going to win one of these games. Is that game going to be Sunday? These teams are too even for the Chiefs to win every single playoff matchup. The question is, are they going to win Sunday's matchup?
And one more for me, Carrington. You're also watching a Chiefs team that's going for history, trying to win 3 straight. Has that meant, or do you think that is added pressure at all? Or is there, I would think there's less pressure when you have already won it before. Not to say that if you lose, it's okay, but here are the Bills trying to win the Super Bowl for the first time in franchise history. The Chiefs are trying to do it for a 3rd time in a row. And I wonder if you feel like that adds pressure or allows them to play a little looser.
I don't think it adds any pressure just because in the last 5 years, the Chiefs have been in every situation that you can be in. You know, like they were down 24-3 in a playoff game. They've been down double digits with 8 minutes to go in the Super Bowl. They won a Super Bowl in overtime last year. Like every kind of pressure situation you can have, the Chiefs have been in. So we have the voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holthus, on the show every week, and he said that Sunday is the biggest game he believes that Arrowhead has ever had when you factor in who the opponent is and what it means. Like the Chiefs fans, you know, as badly as Buffalo won it last year, just Kansas City's in their building, they finally want to beat them. That's how Chiefs fans are about this one, just because of what it symbolizes. If the Chiefs win this, they will be the first team in history to have a chance at 3 straight Super Bowls. And I think a lot of it is kind of centered around, you know, people want Mahomes to go down as the greatest quarterback of all time. Everything Mahomes has done, Brady has done at this point in his career. There is 2 games, a possibility. If the Chiefs win those 2 games, Brady can say, or Mahomes can say that he has done something that no quarterback has ever been able to do. And I think a lot of Chiefs fans want that, not just for the Chiefs, but I think they also want that for Patrick.
If they win, it'll also create this weird record of the Bills winning 4 regular season games in a row and the Chiefs winning all the playoff games. When you hear that, or if that were to happen, what to use the most reasonable explanation for like why that is? Is it something on the Bills side? Is it something on the Chiefs side? Both? Like if it comes to be that it's the polar opposite, the Bills will win every regular season matchup and the Chiefs every playoff matchup. Like why do you think that happens?
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know. I don't mean to not answer the question. I don't know how much that matters because I think these teams are so close. I think we just saw, in the divisional round, the only thing that really matters in this game is turnover differential. Like we just saw that in the last round of the playoffs. The team that makes the mistakes Football is defined by 5 to 8 plays. The Chiefs just usually make those 5 to 8 plays in this game. Buffalo had the lead with 13 seconds to go. The Chiefs just make 2 great plays. They make the kick. It goes to overtime. Buffalo doesn't get the ball. You know, in the last game that these two teams played in the regular season, like Buffalo had a chance to end the Chiefs. 4th down. You got to get a stop for Kansas City. You got to get off the field here. Buffalo makes that play. Can Buffalo make 1 or 2 plays that they haven't made in these postseason matchups? And who protects the football on Sunday?
Right. Carrington Harrison. Carrington, thanks again. Enjoy the game on Sunday.
Hey, I appreciate you guys. Thanks a lot for having me today.
All right, Carrington Harrison, 610 Sports Radio in Kansas City. We do it every time. We'll do it again next year. They play next year. Maybe we'll do it again in the playoffs next year as well. The thing about turnovers, and this is a common refrain, and it definitely played out this way in the divisional round, Joe, where teams that turned it over lost and teams that protected the ball didn't lose. Now you get to a game where I think, what's Lamar's reputation, right? Everyone's been saying it since they lost the game that, well, Lamar's going to turn it over in the big moment. He's going to make 1 or 2 mistakes. You know who doesn't make those mistakes is Patrick Mahomes. In his playoff career against the Bills, he has yet to be intercepted. In his playoff career against the Bills, is there a fumble lost anywhere in here? I don't think so. He has not turned the ball over. So when I get to evaluating the Ravens game and thinking, I would have been not necessarily more impressed by punts, but more encouraged by your defense gets off the field, is because of this. It's because, while the Bills have been living by the turnover, this is the opponent and the stage where they are least likely to get it. So, what do you have to get instead? All right, Josh doesn't turn the ball over anymore. Okay, great. He rarely does against the Chiefs in the playoffs. Last year, the Chiefs turned it over 1 time. It was a fumble into the end zone, and they needed that to keep it a 1-score game. Otherwise, they were going to lose by 2 scores.
Yeah.
So how do they make up for it if they don't get a turnover? Can they win the game without a turnover? That's probably going to be something both teams need. I understand that turnovers, it could happen. Someone could put the ball on the ground. Mahomes could have a ball tipped, could throw a pick. He threw a pick against the Bills here in the regular season. But they do not turn him over in the postseason. And I'm not expecting them to on Sunday.
Jackson has multiple turnovers in 50% of his playoff games. Mahomes has multiple turnovers in 4 of his 19 playoff games, 3 of which were in Super Bowls, by the way. He won 2 Super Bowls with 4 and 3 turnovers, by the way. So you can still win without them.
He won a Super Bowl with 4 turnovers?
He won a Super Bowl against the first Niners Super Bowl. They won 31-20. He had 2 interceptions and 2 fumbles. And then last year against the Niners, he had 1 interception and 2 fumbles.
And what did their defense do? Probably forced punts, right?
Probably.
That's what it comes down to.
And then the other game, there was the Cincinnati AFC Championship that they lost, where he had 3. And against, as you mentioned, the Bills, 0. So just at least from him, you can't really count on it. Like, sure, he's taking more sacks than he has.
That's big.
That is. But I would be skeptical if that's your plan, is we're going to play this style, whatever, that is based on, well, we're going to get a couple of turnovers.
He's been sacked 38 times in 19 career playoff games. The Bills got him twice in the 13 seconds game, and they got him once in the AFC Championship game.
Okay.
And they didn't touch him last year. 803-0550. Bob in Syracuse. Bob's been waiting for a while. Bob, thank you for being patient. Sorry to keep you waiting.
No problem. No, I was just working while I was listening, just like I would on the radio. So a couple of points I wanted to make. Obviously this game plan is going to be entirely different than what we saw last week. Although I really do think that first down is going to be the key, being able to establish a run. My first point would be, I love Cook. Don't get me wrong. He's a great running back. He's the type of guy that he gets better as the game goes on. Those crucial second down plays, or second downs, if we're caught in 2nd and 11, 2nd and 10, like we were against the Ravens, it's going to be a little bit of a problem. And I'm just looking at Ray Davis and his ability to be able to get 2 or 3 yards on first down is really effective. And I just noticed, I don't know if you guys noticed in the third quarter, I mean, Cook would just get stuffed on virtually every single first down between the tackles carry. Just want to get your thoughts on that. The second thing is I really believe that with Samuel being more involved in the offense that he has been all season long, that'll bode well, especially if Josh gets enough protection to be able to isolate Ty Johnson on third down, which I think he could have a huge game this game. I really think that the Bills, if they have great play design, their offense is going to be really efficient this weekend if they could just give Allen some time to throw it. I'll hang up and listen to you guys.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah, their commitment to the run, their ability to run, they're going to want to do it. I don't think there's any doubt about it. Spencer Brown is going to be a big part of this game. He was the stat I would be encouraged about in the run game is that the number 1 and 2 defenses on success rate against the run were Denver and Baltimore, and the Bills ran really well on both teams. On Baltimore, the first half. Second half, they didn't really run that well because Baltimore sold out to stop it. And that's like my big concern, I guess. Can they pass it on Kansas City?
Well, especially if, Steve Spagnuolo is no idiot. He knows how the Bills want to play.
Yeah.
He knows the Bills want to run the ball. He knows that they want to get Cook involved. And he knows he stopped them last time. He just saw the Raven game. What if he comes out to stop the run? What if he dares the Bills? Go ahead, throw it. We're going to do to you what you just did to Derrick Henry. We are going to sell out, and we are not letting you run the ball. Let's see if you can throw it on us. Let's see if you can beat our corners. Let's see if you can beat our secondary. What do the Bills do? Because to me, even though some of these guys have not been that involved in the offense, and I think Kincaid has had some struggles as the season's gone on, I would still want to believe they can win that game. That if the Chiefs say, we are not letting you run it, we'll do base defense. We'll run 3 linebackers. No Cook for you. Can you throw it? I'd want to get Curtis Samuel involved. I'd want to see a one-on-one route to Amari Cooper down the field. I'd want to see, Kincaid over the middle, Shakir. I'd want to see them do that because I do think they're capable of it. And that's if, Spagnuolo would come out and say, I'm not letting you run the ball in this game. Go ahead, try and throw it.
803-0550. I'm doing the math on Mahomes' splits just in the AFC Championship game on touchdown to interception. And I'm up to 14 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. Just in the AFC Championship game.
Just in AFC Championship games?
Just in
Are both of those against the Bengals?
They were. He got 2 in one game.
One was in overtime, I think, wasn't it? Didn't he throw a pick in overtime?
I don't know. By that, I don't remember. I know that they got stopped because they won the toss. The game they lose in overtime to the Bengals, they won the toss.
Right. The week after 13 seconds.
Right. All right, 803-0550. More of your phone calls.
He did, by the way. He threw. He was going for Hill, intercepted by Von Bell, and then the Bengals kicked a field goal.
So in regulation of 7 AFC Championship games,
1.
6. So this will be his 7th. He has 1 interception.
Right.
Okay. This is where you can tell me how good the Bills are at forcing turnovers, and if they do, great. They'll have earned it. They'll get all the credit. But man, just counting on that is a little tough. It's the thing that scares me off this game.
Do you remember? I don't remember this game at all. Maybe I'll watch a little of this. This AFC Championship against the Bengals. Mahomes almost blew it.
They were dominating the game.
He almost blew it before overtime.
Yeah.
So they were dominating the game. Bengals come back. Bengals have the lead. Bengals have the lead with under a minute to go. And here come the Chiefs. And Mahomes has 2nd and 4 on the Bengal 4. Right? 2nd and 4 in the Bengal 4 with a minute 26 to go, if I'm reading this right. He's sacked by Sam Hubbard. Loses 5. Now it's 3rd and 9. And he must be running around. He loses 17. He fumbles. But who recovers it?
The Chiefs.
The Chiefs. And Butker kicks a 44-yard field goal. They had 1st and goal at the 5 with a minute 30 left to win it. Mahomes took 2 sacks, fumbled the ball.
And they got it back.
His lineman fell on it.
Nothing. We got to get a break, and we will. Man. Let's get stupid and some phone calls when we get back. Nothing is forgotten as quickly as fumbles that you recover.
I know.
I was thinking about that because Lamar had a fumble in the game against the Bills, and Von got it and ran it 50 yards. Josh fumbled last year in the Chief game on the final drive. He fumbled.
He did.
Spencer Brown got it back. and then they kept going on the drive. Nothing gets forgotten.
I don't remember.
No one
that.
remembers. Josh fumbled on that drive. Spencer Brown got it back. 803-0550. Let's get stupid. It's about how far a team should go to try to be an underdog.
Seneca Gaming in Irving keeps the foot.
The official voice of the Buffalo Bills, WGR Sports Radio 550 and WGR550.com. This is a Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update.
Wednesday, first practice of the week for the Bills. Sean McDermott expected to meet with the media at 12 o'clock, so that's about when we should get some injury updates on Taylor Rapp, Matt Milano, if Milano even has an injury, we'll see, and Christian Benford, who has a concussion. That'll come a little bit later today. Elsewhere around the NFL, Aaron Glenn, the Lions defensive coordinator, is badly wanted by the Jets, but he left New York yesterday without becoming the Jets head coach. The reporting is that it's still his if he wants it, the Jets job, but he's back in Detroit right now, and he is scheduled to meet with the Saints later this week. He's one of the top candidates in New Orleans also, so almost maybe a bidding war right now for Aaron Glenn. Liam Cohen, the Bucs offensive coordinator, is more and more looking like the next head coach of the Jaguars. Rick Stroud reports the Buccaneers are preparing as though Cohen's going to get offered that job in Jacksonville. Vikings coach Kevin O'Connell, who there have been some trade rumors about a month ago, teams were calling Minnesota about, and Minnesota dispelled those, signs an extension, so he'll be with Minnesota for multiple more seasons. Sabers win last night, 3-2 over Vancouver. They were down 2-1 going into the third, got 2 third-period goals, and they come away with the win. Next up, Calgary on Thursday at 9 o'clock. Those are your Paddock Chevrolet Sports headlines. Kickoff 2025 with a new Chevy from Paddock.
Call or text WGR at 803-0550 or post on X at WGR550 and get connected to Jeremy and Joe now. Brought to you by Northtown Kia. Check out the 2025 Kia K4 sedan. Named finalist for the 2025 North American Car of the Year.
Quarterback who was wildly inaccurate coming out of college and unbelievably reckless with the football has become now a quarterback who we haven't had in the league since 1970, because that's the last time you'll find somebody who fumbled as little and threw as few interceptions and took as few sacks, negative plays from a quarterback, as this one. Josh Allen has become the greatest protector of the football in the sport.
Dan Le Batard. Facts only.
When you put it that way.
Yeah. And again, the number one thing that's really better is the no sacks. Not getting sacked. Wouldn't trade those sacks for downfield picks. Like, Allen's elite at not taking sacks. And one thing about the matchup with Kansas City that I just think is different, we talked to Carrington Harrison of 610 Sports Radio, who knows everything Chiefs and talks Chiefs. Like, they got a lot of pressure on Stroud. I don't think they're getting that pressure on Allen. And when they do, they're very different. Mm-hmm. Allen gets away. Stroud doesn't. So how many times Stroud walk into a sack and you're just yelling at your TV in that game?
Well, there's a combo there of Stroud gets faced with that situation more often.
Yes, he does.
Because
his line is a mess.
His line's a mess internally. There's one of the all-time rates of pressure up the middle, that Houston line. The Bills have the combo right now of their quarterback is impossible to bring down, and their line might be like one of the 5 best in football.
Yeah. 803-0550. Let's get stupid in one moment, but first, Marcus on a cell phone. Hey, Marcus, what's up?
Hey, what's going on, fellas? How's it going?
Good.
Yeah. When you guys were just saying about what I had called in to speak on, as far as Spags saw the games, of course, and I'm sure they were surprised at how efficient the Bills were against running the ball against the Ravens and the Broncos. So I was thinking the same thing. You're like, look, we're going to force you guys, take away the middle. We're going to do crowd the line of scrimmage and force you to throw those outside guys, took the balls to Cooper, and now Coleman is back. They haven't got the ball nearly as much as well. So now we're going to test that. See if you throw the ball out there and see if you can do that as well. Because the Bills have been eating inside, obviously, with the tackle traps, and then Shakir inside. Obviously, Kincaid will be back, so he'll help out in the middle. So I would think from the Kansas City defensive side that you would crowd the middle, crowd the line of scrimmage, and force those outside throws to make Josh make those throws.
Yeah, Marcus, I thought we would see that this week. I thought they would test the outside boundary against Baltimore. And, you got an aging Trey White covering Amari Cooper and Keon Coleman. Mm-hmm. And those reps didn't go poorly for you. I just thought they would do it more. And maybe they would have if they were down 10 points or down 14 points. But, I don't know how they get through this game. Put it this way. I'll be as stunned as anybody on this planet if they are able to win this game and we come out of it saying, and Josh Allen didn't even have to do anything. Because whoever wins at this level anymore without your quarterback doing something, doing a lot. I mean, I don't know how they win if Allen throws for 170 or 180 like he has in some of their wins.
Well, how many? That's right. How many games this year, though, would you say, like, he really didn't do anything? Even, like, there were games where, like, the Niner game, statistically, okay, not that much, right? But
he did catch a touchdown.
He caught a touchdown on a lateral, and there was another crazy play he made in that game that I'm forgetting. So, like, you know, how many games this year did he win where you could legitimately say, yeah, he didn't really do that much? Last week against Baltimore.
Yep.
Week 2 against the Dolphins.
Yeah, that's right. They ran, and the defense got a pick six. And
okay, is that it?
I mean,
I'm not even saying like there weren't other games where he didn't do much, but where you get a play or 2 great plays, 3 great plays. Like this game, like what's his play from Baltimore? What's the play he made?
I only have one.
He was just clean. Like
Yeah,
that's
clean.
fine. Miami. What was the play in that Dolphin game early? Like nothing.
And maybe
he didn't need to.
That's part of what I'll say. I struggle with this.
I'm just saying it's rare.
Right. When do I think the Bills are an unbeatable wagon? It's when they play a game like they do against Detroit, where they're amazing. And Allen was amazing in that game. And Shakir was amazing in that game. And they play against the Rams. The defense is terrible. So I'm probably guilty of sometimes just leaning into points is all that matter. And that's probably not how to win in the playoffs. It feels like it would work, but sometimes it doesn't. All right, let's get stupid. I've got a let's get stupid for you. You ready?
Let's go.
It's based on Seth Walder predicting that by the time the game starts, the Bills will be favored to beat the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to put together a let's get stupid. So you just talked on your show?
It's Jeremy White and Joe DiBiase.
Again, this is Let's Get Stupid, so none of this can be used against us. McDermott for Dable, 1 for 1. Is there a third-round pick?
Aren't the Bills wanting a first-round pick on top of it or something?
A pick swap? McDavid becomes available this offseason. He says, I'm done. Put together a trade package. I will allow you to push this button and get out scot-free of the Von Miller deal right now.
Let's get stupid on WGR Sports Radio 550.
And again, you can't use any of those against us. Sometimes people write those into us.
Yeah.
This one's
right.
This one's an original, though. Okay, so if Seth Walder's right and the Bills go into Arrowhead favored, that's bad news because now you're not underdogs, right? You want to be underdogs.
All right.
Everybody wants to be an underdog. And if you are favored, that you can put that point spread up on the board and say, oh, look at that, fellas. Bulletin board material. All of a sudden, like the spread is on the bulletin board in Kansas City's locker room. Can you believe the books don't believe in us? Or whatever. It's always the media. It's always the talking heads that they're mad at. Never the actual line.
Yeah, that's right.
The Bills were underdogs on the gambling sites. How come they're not talking trash? Anyway.
Yeah.
You want to be the underdog. You want to do everything you can to be the underdog. So
you could literally say everyone was betting against us, not 9 people on TV that said you're not going to win.
Right.
How about the million people that bet the Baltimore Ravens with their own money that moved the line to the Ravens being the favorite?
Right.
That's who was betting against you.
So with that in mind, if the line moves to the Bills and they become favored in this game, let's get stupid. Terry Pagula should place a series of million to $1 billion bets to slide the line back to make the Chiefs the favorite. He'll just play all money on the Chiefs. That way, you're basically buying the spread back the other way, so then you get to claim, actually, we're the underdog. What do you think? How far would you go to be the underdog? Bills players can't bet on the games. That's against the rules. That'd be bad.
How about you open your own sports book?
We all do it. We all, as a 100,000 Bills fans, unite. Hey, everybody, $10 on the Chiefs right now. We gotta move this spread back.
Wow.
We cannot have the Bills feeling like they are favored in this game. They've got to be underdogs. Everybody wants to be the underdog.
So you've got Bills fans rallying together to bet on the Chiefs.
Yeah, we got to move the line.
To move the line in favor of the Bills being the underdog.
Yes. What do you think?
You also have to do it discreetly so that you don't
insane.
have like a false underdog, right? Like when you have this feeling of like, oh, we're just the underdog.
No discreet. You're doubting your own team. You're giving them the doubt they need.
That's right.
That's right. So really what they should do is they should show up to the stadium from now on and just yell, you stink at the Bills because now they're underdogs. Now nobody believes in them. This is all absurd.
Andy Reid said this week, we're probably underdogs.
That's a little presumptuous.
He said that. Yeah.
And I don't believe he saw Seth Walder's tweet about it, so Unless Andy's like a big studier of the betting
Of
markets.
Seth Walder.
Or just knows how the markets work. I don't know.
Does uniform selection matter? Brandon tweets in, are we thinking stormtroopers? I hope so.
Stormtroopers, what they wore
13 seconds.
In 13 seconds.
Yeah, that's right.
Did they
Joe,
also
this is about...
wear it in the AFC Championship in Arrowhead? Or was that white on blue?
Ooh, I think that might be white on white again. But again, this is about righting the wrongs of the past. For a while there, their worst performances were white tops, blue pants.
That's what they wore in the 2020 AFC Championship.
13 seconds was white on white, Stormtroopers?
Yeah.
That's what I want. I always want them to wear that on the road, all white.
I like Brian. They're not going to do this because league rules or whatever, but Brian Mazurowski's like, this is the uniform matchup you want.
Red on blue.
Red on white for the Chiefs, blue on white for the Bills.
Yeah, league doesn't
It's like when
do that.
UCLA and USC play and they wear blue on red. Give me the colors. Come on. But they won't. So they'll go... Do you think they will go Stormtroopers?
I hope so.
I kind of hope they don't. I don't think I want them to. I don't want to be reminded of that game at all this week. And if
there'll be nothing to remind you of that game.
If they're wearing the same thing and it looks the same on TV because it's the same damn stadium again.
And the same quarterback and the same receiver and the same defensive
You know what?
tackle
Show
and
up
the
in
same
all
coach.
red. Show up in all red. Let's really confuse the refs.
Now this is getting
Now
stupid.
they're not going to know who. Here we go. Now you want to confuse everybody? Show up wearing all red, and you'll get calls. They'll think you're the Chiefs. Oh, wait a minute. They already threw it. Too late.
Well, speaking of conspiracies and how everybody is lining up to help the Chiefs, when we get back, it is time for Worst Call Wednesday. And let's just say the conspiracy theories are starting to roll out before the game. We'll get to that next. Jeremy and Joe on WGR.
Stay tuned following
theory season, and we'll get you the worst call. This one's not on the field. One of the worst calls you can make is to skip your recommended cancer screenings. To learn more about potentially life-saving screening recommendations and guidelines, visit roswellpark.org/screening. So, this one's a Josh submission. Producer Josh Schmidt submitted this one. Said, I got it for us, guys. Don't worry about it. I've got Worst Call Wednesday.
All right.
Take it away.
Okay, nobody wants to hear this, and I don't care. I can't say this publicly, at least I'm not supposed to, because Patrick Mahomes is the best friend of Travis Kelce, who is the boyfriend of Taylor Swift. So if you dare to criticize Patrick Mahomes, you risk getting canceled or even kidnapped and forced to listen to her songs every minute for a whole year or until your brain explodes. Josh Allen and the Bills are up against a 60-man juggernaut. That's 53 Chiefs and 7 referees. The memo will go out just as it did last week. Make sure Taylor Swift makes it to New Orleans for the Super Bowl. Without her, the NFL loses millions and millions of viewers who will tune in mostly to see what she's wearing up in that Superdome luxury box.
Skip Bayless, who is...
Where is he doing? Where is he in front of a microphone
That's
now?
probably part of this. Nowhere, really.
That is the
I didn't
Skip
think he
Bayless
was doing...
show.
Yeah, the Skip
Oh,
Bayless.
he has his own...
He's not really on anywhere anymore. And
he's got his own podcast?
Yes, so what you got to do, I mean, a lot of the industry making it big is saying that, let's say the wrongest thing I can think of. Listen, on the idea of the Chiefs are going to win because the refs are going to make it happen.
Or because the colors this year of the Super Bowl logo, we did that again, right?
Okay, great.
I think it makes the Eagles
excited. I feel like
Chiefs.
didn't we dispel that last year? It didn't line up last year.
It didn't?
No, I don't think so.
See, I don't remember.
But that said, you can convince me that officials call for the home team more than the road team. You can convince me subconsciously Mahomes might get calls, that great players might get calls that other players don't. You can convince me a lot of things. One thing you cannot convince me of on any level is that the NFL is rigged, or that it's rigged because of someone's girlfriend. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
I can be convinced of a lot of things. That, I think you are, I'd be embarrassed. If I was a person that thought the NFL was rigged and I watched it, I would be embarrassed. Whenever someone says to me, it's rigged, I would say, why on earth would you watch it then? To see if your team wins a rigged league? Then you'd be not happy. Why would you want to watch your team get it if it's rigged?
Right.
It's not rigged. It is very annoying that they keep winning all the time, but it's certainly not rigged. I saw Warren Sharp had some stats that the Chiefs have never, in 11 home playoff games, been out-penalized compared to their opponent. They've never had more penalties than their opponent. And that's noteworthy. It certainly doesn't mean that it's rigged. It's noteworthy.
I think it was all playoff games, by the way.
All playoff games?
So it included last year's 2 road games.
So they've never been more penalized than their opponent.
Right, and that's the rest of the league. Everything's pretty, like the Bills, it's 3 of their 8.
Okay.
In that time period, they've had their opponents been penalized more. The Chiefs, it's 10 of 11. Although you just pointed out a good point that I didn't think of. I don't even think Sharp addressed it, which is if they're home, because every game's at Arrowhead,
home teams get more calls.
Like and that would be a reason.
That is built into like the subconscious of officials. It happens all the time.
But really, there was a breakdown of like what the penalties are. The biggest difference is the Chiefs don't get pass interference calls on their defense, but their opponent's defense gets it. 11 on their opponent, 3 on them. That's the biggest difference. And like there's 18 EPA through the refs in those 11 games. A lot of that is just pass interference because of how big the yardage can be.
803-0550. Big decision to make on the uniforms to wear. The Bills lost on the road wearing their blue bottoms against the Ravens and the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
On the road with their white bottoms, they lost against Houston, but they did beat the Lions wearing the Stormtroopers. So, big decision. White bottoms, blue bottoms. 803-0550. We have wide open phone lines. If you want to give us a ring next hour, we, what do you want to talk about? It's available to you. Bills, Chiefs, the matchup, all that good stuff. Also, an update on the fundraising for Mark Andrews' charity, his cause, and the Juvenile Diabetes Research Fund. Lots of good news coming out of Bills Mafia once again, as is normally the case. 803-0550. Jeremy and Joe Text us, tweet us, call us, watch us on YouTube, watch us on Twitch. I get to be the old guy that says I kind of know what Twitch is, but I don't exactly know how to use it. But hey, we're there. You can watch us there. So hang out.
LA Sports Update.
Bills and Chiefs Sunday in the AFC Championship. Winner goes to New Orleans for the Super Bowl. Snow in New Orleans yesterday, by the way. Maybe a sign. Today's the first practice of the week. Injury report for the Bills. We'll keep an eye on Matt Milano, who we don't know if he's injured or not. And then also Taylor Rapp and Christian Benford in the Bills' secondary. Benford's got a concussion, and Rapp is dealing with a hip injury. The Barnes Firm Injury Report is brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured for help, call 1-800-8-MILLION. The coaching news from yesterday in the league, Aaron Glenn, the Lions defensive coordinator, was in New York. The report was the Jets didn't want him to leave the building without committing to their head coaching job. He left and did not. But the reporting is that the Jets' offer is on the table if Glenn still wants it. He's scheduled to meet with the Saints later this week. Also, Kevin O'Connell, the Vikings coach, agrees to a contract extension. He had been going into the final year of his deal. Josh McDaniels reportedly back in New England for his third stint as the team's offensive coordinator. Sabres win last night 3-2 over Vancouver. They are next in Calgary Thursday at 9 o'clock. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Kickoff 2025 with a new Chevy from Paddock.
I think this is the most complete their offense has been since the Tyreek Hill trade. Now, I know it's not really evidence of what we just saw in the postseason games. It was funny because Juju didn't have a catch, Hollywood didn't have a catch, and DeAndre Hopkins. The only wide receiver that had a catch was Saber Worthy in that game. But I do think that the Chiefs just have more weapons than before, and we already know in the postseason, you can just write down that Travis Kelce's going to have 80 yards on Sunday. Like, that's the floor of how many yards he's going to have. He could have 150 yards, but he's not having 27 in a game of this magnitude. That I just think last year they went into it with only 3 players that they trusted offensively. Now there's probably 5 to 7 players they trust on offense.
Everybody eats in KC, too. Carrington Harrison, 610 Sports Radio in Kansas City.
Well, not the receivers, apparently.
No, you say that, but fun fact.
Last week.
I'm looking at a lot of the lines, the over-unders for receivers, for Allen to throw a pick, for Mahomes to throw a pick.
Mm-hmm.
Like, does anything jump out about what would be expected? And it's just one of those things where we're in the middle of this year, and I, hand up, am obsessed with getting Josh Allen as many good weapons as possible in receivers. I know that, right? We did that all year. And we went to Everybody Eats, and they traded for Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper's over-under for receiving yards in this game is what?
Is it 20.5?
It is 17.5 yards. Amari Cooper's over-under in this game is 17.5 receiving yards.
Really is insane.
That is wild. The number one receiver for the Bills is Shakir. He is behind the number one line in the week, which is Travis Kelce. 67.5. Last game,
67.5.
Last game, Kelce had 8 yards. 8.
Against the Bills.
Against the Bills.
Every game since then, though, hasn't he had like 50 plus?
Bigger and bigger, yes. He did it just in time for my fantasy team to, use a little bit of that. Although I think he was terrible in the championship or the semifinal.
Yeah. No, it's Kelce and it's Worthy for me. I think it's both of them. Worthy, they're getting screens involved. They can still hit him down the field. Well, he's at least open. Mahomes missed him a few times this year. And I looked up Kelce on the third down thing. He's been targeted 34 times on third downs this year. They've converted first on 22 of them. That is the most on the team by a lot. The next closest is Worthy with 12. And the only other Chief that when they're targeted, they convert a first down more than half the time is Noah Gray. So the 2 tight ends.
Yeah.
More than the running backs when they rush it. Like their third down offense this year by success rate is largely Kelce and Gray. It's the 2 tight ends are just going to find an open spot and Mahomes is going to hit them.
If we could kind of zoom out on a macro point, a bigger point, you've got the 2 best quarterbacks in football squaring off, and all the conversation about both of them is how the lines are more important and they both want to establish the run and on and on and on.
Not turn the ball over.
Yeah, right? It's almost like both are treated like game managers in this spot, whoever doesn't make the mistake. And it's just kind of, I don't know, it's probably not irony, Joe, but the most memorable game of their career against one another was not about who didn't make a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
It was about everybody made 1,000 plays. It was greatness. It was not avoiding disaster. And I don't know what this game will ultimately be, if it's about who doesn't make a mistake. It's possible neither quarterback makes a mistake. If neither makes a mistake, who wins? How about that one? I was looking back at my show notes. Last week I had in my show notes, Dan Orlovsky predicts whichever quarterback doesn't make the big mistake wins this game about Bills-Ravens. And he was right. The quarterback that didn't make a big mistake won the game. Even though Lamar made big plays, bigger plays than Allen, he made bigger mistakes, and he lost. If I were to tell you neither quarterback will turn the ball over, who will win the game? Who does that favor?
In this game?
In this game, neither quarterback turns it over. Who does that favor? Does that not favor the Chiefs? The Bills' defense needs turnovers to survive. And the Chiefs, I don't know that they do need that.
What? I don't know what... They're not the Ravens as a threat. Like, I think their offense is better than it was early in the year, but I don't think it's impossible that the Bills don't force a turnover in this game, or maybe they only force one, and the Chiefs still can't really move the ball. Like, their run game is not intimidating, and Kelsey and Worthy are good, but one's a rookie and the other's at the end of his career. Like, I don't have a prime Jamar Chase to worry about through the air. Like, they've had a pedestrian pass attack all year. So, like, sure, I think you could say it's slight edge to the Chiefs, but I do not think this game it's as important. Like, if you told me right now that the turnover margin is going to be a tie between these two teams, I still feel very confident the Bills can win the football game. I think they can stop the Chiefs' offense without turning the ball over.
How many times did they in the matchup back in
November?
Yeah.
How many times did they turn it over? There was the one right at the end of the game when the Chiefs are down 2 scores, and Mahomes just forcing one.
Yep. Terrell Bernard got him.
Before that, was there a batted ball up in the air that was picked, or was that last season? All these games blend together. They played 5,000 times.
You know, it's funny. Like, when they do intercept Mahomes, Taron Johnson had one to ice a game when Vaughn
chased him out.
Yeah, Vaughn and Milano chased him out there. That's in Arrowhead. And then there's an Epinesa.
That's the one I'm thinking of, and I think that was a couple years ago.
There's a Rousseau one that's a bat it to himself.
Okay.
Early in the season.
Kyrie Elam had one in the end zone where he mossed the receiver, basically.
The opening drive down there a couple years ago. Yeah. In this last matchup, number of punts. Like, again, I know turnover differential gets tons and tons of talk, and you just don't hear punt differential, and I think it is equally as important. And in this game, punts for the Chiefs versus punts for the Bills. 30-21 is your final. In that game, the Bills punted the ball 3 times, and the Chiefs punted it 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going on the board as 1 on turnover differential, but that, especially when you're talking at the top of the league, elite quarterbacks, because punts are turnovers. I think about that with the Lions. I think about that with the Commanders. If you're playing in a game like 13 seconds, if you think the team we're playing against can score on every possession because that guy's that good or that guy's that good in that moment, then any failed drive of mine is a failed drive. And sure, if I throw it to you and you return it to my 2, that's worse than if I just punt it away. But
is there, though, the turnovers are not, as we've talked about, not really all created equal. So, like, what? I almost feel like we're maybe spoiled by in a weird backwards way, and the way the Bills have turned the ball over in the past. They've not turned the ball over this year, but everyone saw the graphic before this season, right? That was put up on every network last season. The Bills had a quarterback that in the first 6 years of his career had more turnovers than any other team in the league, than any other quarterback in the league. They also, during that time,
won 1 million games.
Well, I was getting that. They had a running back that had the highest fumble rate in the NFL for 5 years in Devin Singletary. They had the most turnover-prone by volume quarterback, and they had the most turnover-prone running back. How many games they win?
13.
They had like a 70% win percentage. But What I mean is, were we spoiled in the types of turnovers they got? Because Allen's got this streak going right now where he hasn't been picked sixth. It's one of the longest streaks in NFL history. In fact, it's approaching the record, I think. Versus the way Jackson had a turnover where he fumbles it in his backfield, where the pick against Taylor Rapp earlier, it doesn't really matter. It's a punt. It's basically a 30-yard punt. But you fumble it in your backfield and you allow the defense to pick it up, that's different than a punt.
I agree.
And Goff throws a pick six, an interception in his own territory to a guy where he undercuts the ball, and that guy's got just the lineman to beat. That interception is very different than if you overthrow a guy and my whole offense is in front of him. Like, I think turnover should be treated differently. It should almost be a different stat category. When you throw a turnover that you're in good position, it's like you're fielding a punt, versus, ooh, that's a bad turnover because that guy's going to get 40 yards or he's going to score, because that's very different than a punt. But the Bills don't usually have, even when they were turning the ball over, they didn't have those types of turnovers.
Right. 803-0550. We'll get some calls and you can join us. We're on YouTube. We're on Twitch. We're streaming everywhere. It's not just today. It's like going forward. Our show and Chopin Bulldog will now be streamed on YouTube, so you can watch us, do what we do. Someone wrote in, they think you look like AJ Soprano. You ever get that one before?
AJ Soprano. I've had Baker Mayfield before. I've never had AJ Soprano.
Yeah, well.
I could see it. AJ Soprano. You get, who was the quarterback?
Davis Webb.
Davis Webb and AJ Soprano.
But I'm getting older, and he's young. And
he's getting older, too.
He is getting older. Everyone is getting older.
He's a coach now.
Yeah. 803-0550.
AJ Soprano. I've been rewatching The Sopranos, actually.
Yeah?
Great show.
What did I watch yesterday?
Not a hot take at all. Not the first person that has said that, I'm sure.
Right. I'm unique. I liked The Sopranos.
Yeah.
Butch on the east side. Hey, Butch, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy. Good morning, Joe. Great show as usual. First of all, I love WGR. I love MSG and the fans around the world. I definitely love each and every one of you. I want to get right to it. I was just listening when Joe was just speaking about turnovers, But before I just get to my point, I want to address that about Joe. Joe and Jeremy, we're playing a physical game, not a mental game. If we play the mental game, that means you're going to overthink. When you play physical, you play the game for 60 minutes between the lines. Whatever happens, happens. But as long as you give it your all and leave everything you have inside of you on the field within 60 minutes, that's fine. But people like Joe, Jeremy, you, myself, Dan Orlowski, anybody else on the outside looking in, yes, we'll play the copy machine and play the analytical game. We'll look at the paperwork and the stats. But when you playing this game with the adrenaline and the sweat, you just play. So if a turnover happens, so what? Play defense and just stop them. Get it right back and just win the game. Just like Josh Allen said, just give me one more point more than them after the 60 minutes. That's all that counts. But I'm going to get right to my point. My point is about offensively speaking. If we, for the last 8 games, we have developed the continuity of a running game, of playing smart. And it goes along with what Joe and Jerry, what you guys were speaking about, turning the ball over. But at the same time, we played in some difficult weather where we couldn't really play our game like we did against Miami. So now when we look at Cooper or we look at Coleman and, their stats as far as back to the analytical thing is not up to par. But even though they were doing a part by running cornerbacks away so other people can make plays, I really believe now going to Kansas City, we're going to play in maybe not the way we'll play out here at Orchard Park, but we'll play in a better conditions where we can actually play. I want Josh Allen, if it's open, hit him. If it's not, play smart as usual. We're going to play the 10-yard game. Just give me 10, move the chains, and win the game, control the game. And it's going to be easy. I was just telling my guy who answered the phone, I said, listen, it's going to be a route. I'm letting you guys know the changing of the guard is about to change, and the NFL wants this game badly. It's going to be more far as watch game than probably any playoff game ever, and it's going to be passing the torch. And we're going to pass the torch. Mahomes going to pass it to Josh, which has been a rival from day one because, as you guys already know, Patrick Mahomes was really our pick, but we took Tre'Davious White. Then we took Josh Allen, so they're always going to be tied at the hip. But I just want the Buffalo Bills, and thanks for taking my call, I just want the Buffalo Bills to play the defensive style that they played against Lamar Jackson and number 22, Henry, and you send the linebackers up the middle instead of coming from the corners like you used to be. Don't play that 13-second game you played in AFC Championship in Kansas City. And I promise you, it's going to be easier than what we think it is as long as we don't overthink the game. I love you guys, man. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks, Butch. Yeah, the spying will be the most interesting to me, like how they use, if it's Bernard. We get an update, hopefully, on Milano today that everything's fine with him. Benford and Rapp updates as well. Sean McDermott to speak with the media at 12 today. How they do on Lamar, I think that is debatable, right? He threw a pick that was a give-up throw. Yeah, that was did the Bills defend that perfectly? He had time and space, and he threw it right to your guy.
Milano was coming, wasn't he? Right. I think there was pressure coming. Like, it wasn't there yet, but
he gets away from pressure most times.
He does.
Whatever. I'm not trying to say take everything away. It's a matter of how did you do against that guy? Well, you got pressure with Hamlin when he fumbled. Yeah. And, of course, you did a great job poking the ball out from Mark Andrews. But
they also almost forced him into a second interception. There was a play, I think this was like a 3rd and long, the Bills maybe got off the field on this drive, where this is end of the second quarter, where they are showing blitz and everybody is on the line, and they confused Lamar for where the pressure was coming from. So Taron Johnson is coming off the edge, and I think he gets a hit on him. Here comes Johnson clean. Bernard was showing blitz. He backed off, and Lamar threw it right at him, and it was just a little outside Bernard. Like, I don't think he saw him. Like, if that throw is just a little bit more to the left, or his receiver's route was just a little bit slower, like, he missed Bernard there, and he got lucky that the timing worked out that it wasn't another interception. Then that happened a couple times. Yeah. In all, though, I feel like Jackson was very good.
Well,
but I think isn't very good about the best you can do against him.
Oh, sure.
He doesn't have many bad games.
What's the best you can do against Mahomes? Mahomes has, right now, tied the NFL record for most touchdown passes without an interception against one opponent in the playoffs, the Bills. 8 touchdowns, no picks. He's tied with Tom Brady against the Jaguars.
I think I want to say for the rest of the week that I don't care about Mahomes' playoff numbers against the Bills.
It's different now?
That might sound crazy. I just don't think anything is the same. Unless McDermott talks today and the injury report comes out and we're like, we might not have Taylor Rapp, Christian Benford, or Matt Milano. Like, if that starts happening, then I might get back to this point. But I don't think I want to care about his numbers. The Tyreek Hill Chiefs are nothing like this Chiefs.
That's right.
And last year's Bills defense was a joke with who they were trotting on the field.
All right, this is going to be overly mean, but what year has the Bills' defense not been a joke against Mahomes in the playoffs? They always are.
But that was like the best offense in a decade.
Last year it was.
That.
Last year it wasn't.
But last year, what I'm saying is the Bills, last year was the time to get them defensively, and the other teams that played them in the playoffs did. You just couldn't do it because you had a guy walking off the street covering Travis Kelce.
Maybe. That is a reason/possible excuse. This week, I mean, I hope they're fully healthy. Their defense has also been eaten up in chunk plays like they normally don't get. Baltimore ripped chunk plays all over them in this game. When Baltimore, you say you wanted to sell out to stop the run, and they did sell out to stop the run. I saw someone make the case that, the fact the Bills sold out to stop Henry and stop the run and said, we want Lamar to beat us, proves Lamar can't be the MVP. Lamar was beating them pretty badly outside of the mistakes. If Andrews doesn't fumble, different story. The story is about how Lamar had the one fumble and the one interception, but otherwise he threw for what? Like, he had whatever he wanted in the passing game for good chunks of that game. Anyway, each game's got its own DNA. So, like, that's the thing about this is, you don't want to go back to Mahomes' numbers against the Bills, and that's fine. I went back to 13 seconds just to look up one thing. Why did I look it up? I don't know, because as Butch was talking about how the Bills are better suited to do it because they're so much more balanced. I mean, I'll celebrate if they win with balance. And if they lose with balance, no one will care how balanced they were. Josh Allen was the leading rusher in the 13 seconds game for the Bills. The next leading rusher had how many yards? Devin Singletary is the running back that day. The Bills scored 36 points in regulation in the game we think they should have won to go to the AFC Championship game, to win the Super Bowl that should have been theirs. How many yards did Devin Singletary run for in that game?
Guess like 40.
26.
Nothing.
10 carries, 26 yards. Like, they were not balanced that day, and they scored at will. So I'm glad that what they have built appears to be working. But at the end of the day, so many of the things that we talk about, Monday through Friday we do this, and it's fun, and we all just kind of guess what they're going to do, and then comes Sunday, and the game's DNA will determine how we feel about it. If they run for 250, like, let's go. That's awesome. If they run for 17 and Allen goes Superman, well, guess what? Now all of a sudden it's good that Allen had to go Superman mode. So,
are these two
just win, baby. Just win.
Are these two teams, though, like, are they confirming for everybody that this league now is so different than that one that had the 13-second game? Because
you know what? I would like to say
both these two teams have, more than Baltimore. I was about to say about the Ravens in this matchup. Another reason I'm confident, I don't think the Chiefs' passing attack has looked the way the Ravens have at times this year all season. Like the Ravens as a pass attack, even beyond the run game, has a higher ceiling to me than the Chiefs' pass attack does. And again, I'm not even sure how true this is. I think it's been way overvalued. But a lot are going to point to, hey, these two teams that played in that football game pivoted, playing a different style of offense. They aren't scoring as many points. They aren't throwing the ball as much. Neither team had any receivers do anything last week outside of their number one guys. And they're the two teams sitting here in the AFC Championship.
Well, that's not lost on me. Just wait. Wait until one of them gets a Brian Thomas Jr. Wait until one of them gets I say that because he's a young rookie who exceeded expectations.
Well, that was Worthy a little bit.
But Worthy's not a full number one. What would happen if Jamar Chase was on this team? Would the Bills
team either?
Either one would they lose a game? I mean, granted, the Chiefs lost one and the Bills lost two. Like
if Keon Coleman had just been Jamar Chase.
Yeah, I think what you see here is teams that have built out really good, solid, all-around teams. But at the end of the day, it's the two best quarterbacks. Sometimes receiver gets treated this way. I saw where none of the top 10 paid receivers are playing in this round. Do you think we should stop paying receivers big money? Want to know a fun stat, Joe? None of the top 10 paid quarterbacks are in this round either. Should we stop paying quarterbacks? Of course not. Pay good players, have good players, and the Chiefs have done everything they can to try and turn over their receiver core. Marquise Brown, Xavier Worthy. They went down the Kadarius Toney rabbit hole. They have Rashee Rice out for the year. If Rashee Rice is on that team, how do you feel about it?
Maybe they're very different.
Again, they went 16-1 or whatever. There's 15-2. And you could say, well, I guess they don't need Rice, right? They should trade him now because they won a lot of games without him. Man, if they had that guy in peak form, you'd be a lot more scared of this team. And they'd probably be a different offense. So they lost two receivers. That's what Mahomes and Allen can do for you. Mahomes and Allen are so good. Stroud loses Diggs and Tank Dell and Nico Collins during stretches of the year. And what's the story of Houston? Oh, man, all of a sudden their line stinks, and I got questions about C.J. Stroud. Mahomes loses Rashee Rice and Hollywood Brown. What happens? 15-2. I think it's about coaching and quarterback. And what the Chiefs have had is Reed and Mahomes together, and that works. And right now the Bills have Brady and Allen. And boy, does that look like it ever works. This is the same Brady that had Jefferson and Chase at LSU. You're telling me he wouldn't have a good design if they did have those guys? Again, not complaining about it. Like, these games have their DNA. These seasons have their DNA. Meanwhile, in the NFC, I got A.J. Brown, Terry McLaurin. What do the Commanders do? All of a sudden, they have three really good-looking receivers.
Well, the Commanders are the one team of the four right now that I would say they are not doing the thing that is, we're going to slow play things and establish the run. Like, the Eagles might have A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, but they are not getting them involved right now.
No, their passing game. I saw Nate Tice of Yahoo Sports saying, like, the Eagles' passing game is a problem in the bad way.
Like, Bills, Chiefs, and Eagles in the Final Four all just proved, even if our star quarterback doesn't go off, we win. We can win.
Mm-hmm.
The Commanders are doing it very different, where it is just all on you, baby. Jaden Daniels, do your thing.
Yep.
You carry us. You be Superman, and we'll go as far as you can possibly take us.
There's probably a cap point in there because he's obviously on a rookie deal.
That's fair.
And the other teams have to, deal with that mega cap hit. 803-0550, Sabres head coach Lindy Ruff chimes in next, and we'll continue taking your calls ahead of Bills and Chiefs on WGR.
Buffalo Bills football Monday. Call or text WGR at 803-0550 or post on X at WGR550 and get connected to Jeremy and Joe now. Brought to you by Northtown Kia. Check out the 2025 Kia K4 sedan. Named finalist for the 2025 North American Car of the Year.
So the numbers might be just under 50% by the end of the game for Kulik. 3 seconds to go. One shot for Besser. Rebound to the net. Saved by Luukkonen. Saved by Luukkonen. 3-2 the final. The Buffalo Sabres hang on.
Sabres win a late-night game against the Vancouver Canucks. We'll talk about it with Sabres head coach Lindy Ruff. Out on the West Coast, times get moved around, so as opposed to normal 8 o'clock on Tuesday, here we are, 9:30 on a Wednesday, and we welcome in the Sabres head coach. Lindy, good morning.
Morning, gentlemen, and sorry about yesterday. Had some late-night texts with the players being sick, and then turned my phone off on you guys.
That's all right. I mean, hey, I never know what time it is. I have to ask Google, what time is it in New Orleans? And and you guys are all over time zones from, Vancouver to Winnipeg, and I imagine it can get confusing.
And that's a bug that's been hitting the room now for a little while here, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's strange how it really is picking like one or two guys off at a time. It probably is the best. It hasn't hit a group of players at one time, but this has been going on now for probably over 2 weeks.
Lindy Ruff on the Wester Hotline. All right, well, Lindy, you got a win last night, and one thing that's noteworthy about the last 24, 48 hours maybe is that in between games you did have a little bit of a morning skate, maybe more so than you would, most of the time. Felt a need for that after the game before.
Yeah, I really felt it was disappointing. We lost the 50-50 puck battles, the puck battles around the net. Cost us dearly in the Seattle game, and really felt as a group that we wanted to go out and compete in a morning skate, put in a couple drills that one-on-one compete, two-on-two compete, get to the net, and at the same time have defensive boxing players out, get some physicality. And it was the focus of the morning skate. It was the focus of the game was win your battles and skate. And I thought on a whole, our club skated well. Compete around the net was good. The type of goals that we gave up in the Seattle game, we basically eliminated. And I thought it was a tough hockey game. It was too good. It was two teams that were playing well. We fought through a little adversity with, you look at their first goal, takes a crazy bounce off the stanchion in the glass and comes back net front. Another goal, we go down. We should be getting a scoring opportunity. We break a stick. We come back to our end. We've got a guy with a broken stick. And so to fight through that, play a real sound third period and score a couple goals to end up winning the hockey game, a big step in the right direction.
How good was that third to see, too? Because I would have, just on the surface, seeing that, they did a practice the night before or in between a back-to-back. Man, I wonder if they're going to have the juice late in the game or if they'll run out of gas. And you guys outshot them in the third period. You got the 2 goals. So I don't want to ask you if it was surprising, but how good was it to see that there was enough energy left in that third?
It was good to see, and I think part of that was we managed the puck well. We moved the puck well. Again, the Seattle game, I thought our puck play, execution on some of the breakouts was very poor, which put us in a lot of situations where we had to defend, where we get it out in the neutral zone and we can put pressure on them. So to play the third period, we needed that. We needed the battle through adversity. We needed to get through a third period where we could come back and win a hockey game.
Sabres head coach Lindy Ruff. Jiri Kulik, 3-point night for him. Mm-hmm. He's been – I feel like, Lindy, we've been waiting to see him for quite some time, and we're getting these moments where you're starting to see the kind of player that Kulik can be.
Yeah, I thought the game in Seattle, first game back seemed just a little bit tentative, with dealing with post-injury. Conversations with him, he felt really good. going into the Vancouver game and really felt he'd be back to normal. He's really played well in the middle of the ice. Before he got hurt, you go to the Islander game, you go to the Boston game. He's broke the puck up well. He's defended well down low. Got rewarded. That line, a couple great plays off face-offs. He got himself net front on his goal. So I really think he's taken a huge step in the right direction.
And he's been centering Thompson yesterday and before that. Is Thompson at a point now where he's still on the wing because maybe of a pain management situation, or is it just working well enough for you that, if it's working, don't fix it?
I really, really believe that he's getting more opportunities. He's getting more shots, freed up to skate more. And even if you look at like an early, I don't know if you saw the game, but an early play where, he's pushing out of the zone. I think it was the first shift of the game, and made a great play to Kulik that missed the one-timer in the slot. Like, when he plays center, he doesn't get those opportunities. Looking pre-wing, an injury kind of pushed him out there, but he was averaging less than 2 shots a game. And know that he played quite a bit of wing last year. Just felt that kind of post-injury here, what he was dealing with, that the wing has looked better for him. And now with Kulik coming in and playing the way he's playing, and a left-handed centerman, I think people might not think that is as big a deal, but a left-handed centerman who's going up ice tends to look a lot of times to the right side. So I think there's been games where he's had 6-7 shots. So it's been a better look.
Lindy Ruff with us on the Western Hotline. Lindy, are you treating the standings any differently than you would have been earlier in the year? There was the story about how you would put the standings up in the locker room early in the season, and that's obviously not in a great place right now. So I don't know, is there any protecting the group from getting demoralized on that front, or are you still saying, hey, this is how far out we are, this is what we got to do?
Yeah, I think we all understand where we're at. There's no secret to that. I talk about it. We take this one game at a time. Really felt that loss at home to Pittsburgh was a tough loss for us, where we had a lot of great opportunities to put the puck in the back of the net. Didn't finish in that game. But just treat it one game at a time. Try to put a run together. I really feel if we can put a 5-6 game run together, well, we can get ourselves back in the picture and battle ourselves back into this.
That run will continue on the road here. You've got stops in Calgary and Edmonton. And Lindy, how about this trip for you? You love these Western Canadian trips?
The Western Canada is home. My mom still lives out here. I've got a couple brothers. I've got a cousin that came into Vancouver, and so you get to see a little bit of family. Brings back some memory of junior hockey and Tier 2 days where you're busting around Western Canada to the smallest places and playing your way into becoming an NHL player. So a lot of great memories, and you get a few minutes here or there to say hello to family.
All right. Well, best of luck tomorrow against Calgary, and then Edmonton and home on Tuesday. I took the liberty, Lindy, of checking the schedule to see if you'd be able to watch the Bills game Sunday. An AFC Championship game, high stakes. It looks like you guys will. You should be back in town and maybe comfortably on the couch.
Comfortably on the couch, and for sure it's going to be one hell of a game. And I'm picking the Bills by 7.
All right. Do you get nervous during these games? You have to watch them by yourself.
Yeah,
and what?
I do.
Yeah.
No, I do. I do get nervous. I get nervous for sure. But what a football game last week. I mean, there was some great football this weekend, but the Bills game was incredible.
Yeah. All right, Lindy. Thanks again.
Well, you're welcome, gentlemen. Bye now.
Lindy
Thanks.
Ruff on the Western Hotline. They're in Calgary tomorrow, Edmonton Saturday, 4 p.m. So there you go.
Kind of an afternoon game.
Yeah, sure. 4 o'clock on a Saturday. That's not bad.
Mm-hmm.
803-0550. It's outside. I don't think it's... Okay, it's 1 degree now. We're up to 1.
That's it?
Yeah.
I was hoping double digits by the time the show ended.
High of 13 at 4 o'clock today, but yeah, it's up to 1. So, take your... when I left the house, it was -3, which is obnoxious.
The real feel is... I've got as... It's got two different numbers here. One of them says the real feel is -8. The other says the real feel is 10.
18. My real feel...
Oh, snow starting in 49 minutes. That's when the real feel goes down to -8. It says real feel right now is 10.
I would say the real feel right now is around 68 because we are inside of our studio. So that's how it feels to me. No one ever does that one. You think it's colder than 68?
It's colder than 68.
66?
The real feel, listen, your house, it might depend where you live and what your insulation's like. If your thermometer says 67 degrees, there are going to be spots in your home that are 60, right?
Yeah.
Closer to a window, or maybe there's a spot here or a spot there.
But your expected temperature is 60.
Right, it's an expected temperature.
Right. Oh, in my kitchen, we are 4 degrees below expected. Let's start rocking analytics.
Yeah, I want temperature analytics throughout the entire home.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
803-0550, our phone number, and 1-888-550-2550. Extendo Sports coming up, and then the Northtown Automotive Extra Point Show. We'll get an update from Sean McDermott on the state of the Bills, injuries and all that, as we get closer and closer to Bills-Chiefs, 6:30 Sunday night here on WGR.
Stay tuned following Jeremy and Joe for the Northtown
Sorry, turn my mic on. First day here.
First day in video, it happens.
Yeah, have seen Mel Kiper doing some draft projections.
Okay.
Has a Kyle McCord top 5 quarterback in the upcoming draft, and with a landing spot of the Rams as like an ideal spot for him. Have seen that?
In what round? Not round 1. Right?
Can't
be round 1.
He says the Rams at 26.
Woo!
One of the best drafted developed teams could choose to do that with one of the QB3 options.
Kyle McCord in the first. He can't move though, right?
Not at all. No,
yeah, I don't want. You don't draft quarterbacks that can't move in the first round.
I know you don't. One other thing I wanted to mention. 2 things I wanted to mention. One is there was a note that the Ohio State running back. Which one?
Not Trayvon Henderson though. The other one, right?
Right. Yes, that's right. Judkins, right?
Yeah.
Quinshon Judkins. So he has it in his NIL deal that every time he scores a touchdown, $1,000 gets donated to a charity, like a fund in Alabama to help people with kidney disease.
Mm-hmm.
Which I had never thought before about. Oh, the Alabama Kidney Foundation gets $1,000 every time Quinshon Judkins scores a touchdown. Here we all thought NIL was all player payment. No, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Owen Parker sent this along too because Bills fans have noted have raised $50,000 for the T1D Foundation, which is Mark Andrews Foundation. And a listener wrote in, Dan sent this in, that his daughter was diagnosed with this when she was 14, and that Mark Andrews sent her a personal letter of encouragement last year, along with some other stuff like a T1D bracelet with his number on it, type 1 diabetes, and how Andrews has been a source of encouragement for her. She's a 3-sport athlete and realizes what he has accomplished by playing with it. So those research dollars that Bills Mafia has donated to Mark Andrews' charity, $50,000. He's active and
awesome.
Does a lot to help people. So good on you, Bills Mafia, and good on Mark Andrews. 2 bits of good news to close the show. What else? I watched TGL last night a little bit. I caught it late after the kids were down. I tuned it in to see Justin Thomas, who, of all the pro golfers you might want to watch, mess around, play some golf. Justin Thomas near the top.
Mm-hmm.
He was pretty good. And what else about TGL? It was fine. It remains worth watching on a Tuesday
when there's
in
nothing else
January.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, you put it up against a Premier League game, I'm not going to watch it. You put it up against...
If it's up against March Madness in a month and a half, then on a Tuesday, I doubt many will choose that.
They've picked a nice window, a nice little spot here for it to land. So that's good. Also...
I did see a Masters commercial yesterday.
I've seen those too. Netflix reported huge ads in additions, I should say. They're raising prices. They also had their biggest ever subscriber jump. You want to chalk that up to live NFL football on Christmas Day? You might. So Netflix is raising prices, and they've got more people than ever. I would just like to say, hey, if you're going to raise our prices, I'm going to need a new season of Love is Blind soon. All right? Let's make it happen.
Uh-huh.
I've been patient for the next season of Love is Blind. Football's about to end. I'm going to have some time, Netflix. Let's ramp up production here. We're waiting for Love is Blind.
Do you want a stat of the day before we head out of here?
I do.
Have you seen the numbers on the Bills and Chiefs' last 10 meetings?
Yeah, they've scored exactly the same number of points.
5 wins, 5 losses, 251 points for, 251 points against. It's pretty incredible.
So it'll go to overtime?
It's 251 to 251 in their last 10 games. That includes the playoffs and the regular
At least they won't
season.
lose on a coin toss. The Bills won't. That's good news.
That also includes like a Tyrod game in there. Right? The McDermott in 17. They win in Kansas City after the Peterman game. They were a big underdog in that game. Yeah.
We're back tomorrow. What do we have tomorrow? Another Chiefs guest on the way. Kendall Gammon will talk some Chiefs with us. Sal joins the show. Stay tuned. Sean McDermott, noon today, updates, all that rolling. And tune into the stream this afternoon. Chopin Bulldogs streaming on YouTube and Twitch as well as we do this pretty much going forward. Talk then.
WGR.
Jeremy White.